So that means, according to Jesus, the number one reason why people don't receive the gospel is because they don't understand it, because it was presented in a way that did not land on the soil.
My great hope and desire is to minister to the person in that place. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to reach people with the gospel.
Yep. I think you can look to God and be like, thank you for this gift, and I don't want it. And I remember praying that prayer to the Lord and saying, I know you're real. I know hell's real. I know heaven's real. But a God who really loved me wouldn't treat me like this.
It's like, well, do you have to be a Christian and go to church? Well, no. But like, how long are you really going to stay married? Never going home.
Oh,
how long are you really going to follow Jesus?
True.
Never going home. Hey, it's Rich, and you're listening to the Mature Me podcast, weekly content devoted to all things life, leadership, culture, and faith. Thank you for taking some time to tune in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mature Me. If you can't tell, it's really Mature Me on the move. Yes. We are headed on the road to VuCon. We are making our way there. But as always, this podcast is a podcast that's helping you grow in all areas of life. I really think that life is about who you're becoming tomorrow. And so every one of us have the chance to either get better or get worse. And hopefully today, from our conversation, you're going to get better. As always, like, subscribe, do all the things. You can always go to richwilkersonjr.com, get that free leadership email. It comes out every Tuesday morning. I'm starting to kind of add more and more little things to that as well. And so I want you to get that. You can always go there and get it. Also, if you're not registered for VuCon, this is our greatest family reunion. People really from all over the world. We are set to have our biggest and our best year yet. It's all about encountering God, equipping the church, and empowering leaders. And something happens when we get in the room, something about putting a date on your calendar to meet with Jesus and meet with God's people. So we'd love to have you there. It's right around the corner. But today, I'm enjoying this. We are in this Airstream, as you have been seeing the last couple of weeks. And different friends of mine along the way in Florida are just meeting up. And today I'm so pumped because I've said this publicly a couple of times, but I'm going to say it right now directly. This man that we've got today is my current, right now today, favorite preacher. I've stolen a lot of things from him and I feel bad about that. I don't really feel bad about that, but clip me in that and you can. I'll be like, yo, bro, I already admitted it. But today we've got lead pastor of Journey Church here in the Orlando area. Mm-hmm. JJ Vasquez is here, friends. Not only are you a pastor, but he's also an amazing husband. His wife, Liz, father to two boys, Justice and Zane.
You're so good, bro.
Yes. So right. Yeah. Those boys are cool. By the jiu-jitsu guys, right?
Jiu-jitsu guys, basketball, soccer. Yeah, man. They're getting into it.
You just got them on a whole regimen of sports.
Stand-up comedian. Yeah.
Really?
He did stand-up at the fine arts thing and won 4th place stand-up. He loves being funny. So yeah.
So he's writing bits and stuff?
Yeah, he's writing bits about growing up as a homeschool pastor's kid, and they're hilarious.
How old is he?
He's 11. He's my youngest. He's 11.
That inspires me right there.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't know fine arts expanded.
Let's go.
We got to break down fine arts. People are like, what are you talking about? JJ and I both
AJ Roots, bro.
Yeah, AJ and I are both in the Assemblies of God, which might not mean to anyone out there listening, but that AG raised me.
Yeah.
And explain briefly what fine arts is, because someone's like, what is that? We're just talking on this insider language.
Yeah, discover, develop, deploy. So it's about young people. So how quick that came out, bro. It's in me, bro.
You helped write the curriculum.
The next thing is Royal Rangers,
I clarified their mission. Ready to work, serve, play, submit, and
alert,
obey.
Clean, honest, courageous.
My goodness.
Yeah.
I got to explain all these things to the audience.
Discover, develop, deploy. So it's about just helping young people find their talents and their gifts. A lot of platinum award winning artists have come out of there. A lot of pastors. Robert Badu came out of short sermon, fine arts.
Greatest preacher of our generation.
Yes, phenomenal.
Right? I mean,
hands down.
Guy's a freak.
Yeah. And so it's just a great way for young people to kind of just develop their skills, man.
Someone just came into our RV. Sometimes, that's hilarious, by the way. We just keep it going. It's just a full knock. Sorry, you got to come back. It was a random person from the RV park.
Was it really?
No, I don't know. I think it was someone for the team. It's funny because sometimes I'll hit up Robert, like I'll be in a text. And like, I'll have this outline. And I'm like, brah. And he'll just sit me back a voice note on some insight. I'm like, dude,
man,
what did I do this whole week?
The fact that you even do that, because I think a lot of people don't know that about you, that you are a phenomenal preacher, but you're always learning. Like you sent me a text, dude, prop, I'm working on this thing, Monopoly, man. How do I do this better? And I'm like, why are you even, you're a great preacher. You're going to crush this. What are you even, but I love that you're always learning,
but you're the king of props.
Well, I don't know about that. But it's authentic. You're like your teachability, your hunger to learn and grow. I love that so much. Probably why you did a podcast. You're just bringing people in so that you can ask questions and
I'm just
learn
trying
and
to
grow,
learn,
right?
bro. Just trying to be a sponge.
Yeah, man.
Your boys are in jujitsu. By the way, my boys, I've got a 7-year-old. His name's Wyatt, and a 5-year-old named Wild. You've met him before.
Yeah.
But they're in jujitsu. And funny story. This is like very, very recent.
Enjoying it?
I'm trying to think if I've shared this anywhere yet. They enjoy it. And the last, I guess 3 years they've probably been doing this. I take them over there to jujitsu practice, or is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think so.
Practice?
Yeah.
And every time I'm in there, the guys are always, talking to me and always trying to.
You should come. You should.
Always doing this. So this is a funny story. This is like 2 weeks fresh. Okay. I'm like, nah, my wife has kind of teamed up, and she, unbeknownst to me to the boys, she's like, yeah, I think dad should do this. And so now I got my wife telling my sons, dad should do jujitsu. And they're like, dad, please. I'm like, babe, you can't sign me up with our sons. Like, to do jujitsu is a very humbling, to get on that mat and roll around with a man, like being the submission move. It's all close. You're some guy's straddling you. I'm like, this is bigger than just let's do it.
Yeah.
So 3 years, the guy's been asking me.
Yeah.
This is like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm in there on a Friday. They're doing like a private lesson, and there happens to be another dude. And he walks over to me. He starts sitting. It's a 40-minute lesson. So he starts talking to me. He's like, hey man, so you pastor a church? I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah. So I have a friend who's been going there, and she went through 2 years of like deep depression, and they said the thing that changed their life was your church.
Come on.
I'm Muslim, but my wife's Catholic, and who is Jesus? I mean, the tee up questions he's asking me.
What?
So now I'm just like, I think I'm evangelizing.
Yeah.
We get done with our conversation. I'm signed up for the next Friday.
Let's go.
I'm like, who's evangelizing who?
He worked there.
He worked there.
Oh my God.
And so he's like, I'm like, yeah, let's do a private lesson. He hasn't gotten saved yet. So I went last Friday.
Let's go. Did you like it?
I don't know if I liked it, but I got 3 more lessons.
It's crazy when your kids get into sports, who you become, especially jiu-jitsu. My son started off, he's not like an aggressive kid. Like there's some kids who've got like aggression and it's not even necessarily negative, just a lot of energy.
Yeah.
That's not my kid. He's a homeschooled kid. I put him in jiu-jitsu because he's a homeschool kid. I'm like, just in case you ever go to real
kids
school.
Are homeschooled.
Yeah. I said, you got to have just a little bit of, you got to know what it's like to be
body
pushed around.
Awareness.
Yeah, some body awareness. And so he was just getting demolished. We got him a private coach, private lessons. He got a lot better. And we take him right now. He won 3rd place in like a national thing.
Have him
competing now. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to do it, Rich.
Yeah, this is not.
You got to do
we're
it.
Not into just,
we're not
participation awards.
I got to do it to win. And this one kid put him in a chokehold and tapped him out. But I love what it's done for like a growth mentality.
Yep.
Like him putting in the work, getting better, improving, showing him that if you keep pushing in, you improve and you get better. And so after the kid kind of choked him out, he was like, you know what? If he does that again, I think I know this move. I think I know that move. And I was just so proud of him. Not even he hadn't won anything yet, but proud that he didn't allow like the defeat to defeat him, that he was looking at it from a different angle. And he went in there and he got the kid like into submission. And what's crazy is like everybody there knows I'm a pastor, but I could not help but like, let's go, choke him out. Break his leg.
You're like, what's his name? His dad from Pacers when he got up in at the end of that game.
Was that Halliburton's dad?
Yes, bro. They banned him.
Dude.
They banned him. He's like, but it's a dad,
bro.
bro. He's like, I'm like, you can't go out center court and look down, Giannis or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't come back to the game, man.
Yeah. So I was trying to balance that pastor, dad, gentleness of Jesus with the.
Yo, my dad used to get kicked out of our games.
No,
True
I've
story.
never seen that side of Pastor Rich.
And everyone knew who my dad was in Tacoma, Washington growing up. And my dad would come out there and he would lose his mind. And he got booted from at least 2 games. Pastor Wilkerson, you're
oh my God.
Basketball games and stuff. But
will you be that kind of dad now that your kids are getting older?
I hope, I've learned from the sins of my father. No, I don't think so. But you do get like
especially when you're in the community, bro.
Yeah, like, it's not a good look.
It's not a good look.
My dad was an itinerant speaker though, so he wasn't really pastoring there. He was more coming in.
Yeah.
Have you ever got on the mat?
No, they asked me a couple of times.
Have you thought about it?
I have, Pastor Craig is
those guys.
He's a mentor. He's blue belt, whatever he's at right now.
Matt Chandler's out here competing, bro.
Really?
Oh yeah, bro.
I don't know, man. Maybe. I'm not a big cardio guy. Like even the VU run, like props to you guys? So 8 miles, 8 miles.
I did 8 miles last night, 6 miles this morning. We have a run tonight.
I'm more like weightlifting with like 3-minute rest in between each set. Like if I was doing road to VU, I'd call it like pull up to VU.
Yeah.
And it'd just be like pull-ups, you know? And then we'd rest for 3 minutes and we do some more pull-ups. Like I'm all for the physical, but I just got the worst cardio.
Well, I've only done one lesson,
planet.
but leave it to a preacher to already start, using one lesson. It's like you go to a therapist one time. It's like, my therapist. It's like, dog, you don't really go to a therapist in jujitsu.
My jujitsu coach.
But right away, what I was quickly like taken aback by is like, it's been a long time since I have been, wrapped up with a dude. It is all very like you don't know what to do in a fight.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Like this guy that I was like wrestling with in my mind, if I was at a restaurant and this dude was like disrespectful, in my mind, I'm like, I would crush this guy.
Right.
Guess what? Not true.
Not true.
I would die. And that, my friend, brings me a lot of fear. Cause I think I kind of go through life like, I could take that guy. Yeah, I could take him. And it's like, you find out like, I don't know what I would do. Like, he's like, what would you do here? I'm like, bro, it was.
Should I try it? Should I do it?
My daughter and my wife were watching. I was like, can you guys leave? I was not happy.
Oh no, that for sure. If I'm doing a private lesson, it's going to be private.
Yeah, you're not letting Liz watch that.
Heck no.
My little daughter Wayland's over there, like watching her dad. I'm like, can you guys get out of here? It was embarrassing.
Should I do it?
I think you should try one. I'm doing one next Friday. I have next Friday, the following Friday. I'm gonna do 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can
I'm
say
gonna try to at
commit
least get a church invite out of it. Now that I'm coming out of your story.
Well, I'm like, this guy melted my heart, man. I'm like, here giving the gospel. I'm like, he's just asking like questions. It's like setup. I'm like, and then Christ came. Like it wasn't because I'm a good evangelist. It's like you just asking these questions. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to come and do jujitsu with you.
Love that.
After hearing my message, I feel like I should hear his. So, I'm so happy you're here today. Thank you for driving out. Me. I don't know where we are.
I feel like I made it, man. I love this podcast. I love you. I wanted to say this before you jump into anything, just how much I appreciate you. I was talking to the guys in here, and it's like, if you don't know Rich, because I've known Rich from a distance, and now I'm getting to know him more and more, he is the real deal. You're authentically humble. You're a crazy learner. And 50 people all feel, we were in a room recently with a group of pretty well-known pastors, and everybody felt like you were their best friend, including me. And I was like, we can't all be like his best friend. Somebody here is number 5 or 6, but it's the way you make people feel.
They're all my best friend, man.
Even when we were at KB Summit, there was some dude you were sitting next to with the IV Fusion thing. You lost your wallet. You guys are in the elevator. And I'm like, I was asking DC, I was like, does he know them? I'm like, because they're talking like they're like best buds. I'm like, nah, they met today at the IV thing. Yeah. I'm like, that's wild. And I really think it's the gift of hospitality. You just have a way of making people feel at home. So thank you for making me feel seen, special. The first time we met, I don't know if you remember this, it was at KB.
Okay.
And I had my name tag on. And you were like, JJ Vasquez? You're like, yeah. You were like, dude, you're one of my, whatever you say.
Because I probably could have knew who you were with your ski gear.
Yeah. You were like, JJ, you're a preacher. And you said something kind. And I was like, there's no way he actually means that. And I went to my wife and I was like, babe, Rich Jr. know who I was.
I love you, bro. I love what you do.
But you make everyone feel that way. Kind. And I just think that's awesome. Not just the people who can give back to you. You make the Muslim jiu-jitsu guy. I bet that guy feels like he's your best friend.
Well, he got invited to my crew. He's coming to my crew, my small group at my house.
And you know what he's telling people? He's telling Pastor Rich, my friend.
He is my friend now. He is my friend. And I might become a black belt.
You're awesome, bro. I know that there's a stigma around whatever people, just people, all they see preachers, and they're probably not watching this podcast. If they're watching, they think that. But if there's anybody who this gets shared to, just want people to know you're the real deal, bro. You and DC. So thank you for being kind. Thank you for making me feel special every time.
It means a lot to me. I like that you brought up hospitality because it's funny, right? Like that whole requirement of like, elders or ministers.
Yeah.
There's all these things that you should and shouldn't do. And there's certain things that disqualify people that we all like, you obviously have to sleep with your spouse.
One wife.
You can't steal your money and you can't be a drunk. We all agree with that. But no one ever loses their church because they haven't had people over to their house. And all of that is in there. You should be hospitable.
Legit. I told Liz one time, I was like, babe, I think this disqualifies me. Yeah. Because it says you had to want people in your house. I'm like, man, I'm not a big house guy.
Yeah.
I was like, Lord, work on me, Lord. Heal me, Lord.
It's just funny.
It's in there.
I think hospitality is hopefully that is a hallmark of VU a little bit. Like
it really
we don't
is.
always get it right, but like
it really is.
That we love people that we want to.
Yeah. Even the people we send down, like the teams we send down, like I was talking beforehand, how we kind of stole your huddle, your pre-service huddle. when we send people down to VU, the staff treats them just like so special. It's obviously a culture that UNDC have put in there, but yeah, you go to VU as a guest, you go to VU as a church planner trying to learn, you're gonna be made to feel special.
Our church loves you. You spoke last summer for us.
Church.
You're coming back. Thank you for coming back.
Easiest place to preach on the world. I was like in the middle of my intro.
I don't think it's the
and
easiest
four
place.
guys were standing up.
I don't think it's easy.
All I said was,
no,
DJ Vasquez.
I think when you're good, you're good. I mean, people all year is like, that's the best sermon this year at VU. Like, I preached a lot. Oh yeah, the best of the year? Like, all right, best of summer. Like,
that's funny.
Tell me a little bit, because I actually don't know. Like, I know that I think you were born in New York.
I was, man. Born in Brooklyn, New York.
Tell me a little bit about that, like in little factoids that like I feel like I heard from our team. That your first sermon's at 12. I don't understand this, so talk to me about it. I guess
your first sermon was 12 too. But
I don't think so.
This might be the first podcast where you get asked more questions than you asked other questions. But so my dad, a Puerto Rican, third generation. My dad is one of 11. My mom is one of 9. Same mom, same dad. No, they're just Puerto Rican, bro. What my Puerto Ricans know. I asked my grandmas one time. Both of them had the same answer. I said, why do you have so many kids? They both had the same answer. Guess what their answer was?
What was it?
They didn't have TV.
Oh my God.
I swear, bro. I was like, Grandma, ew.
Y'all wasting your time watching that TV. You should redeem the time. Procreate. Okay.
For real. And from my dad's side, being 11, my dad was the only believer. Wow. And my mom's side, being 9, she was the only believer. I knew this because we went to Christmases and Thanksgivings, and a lot of my aunts and uncles would be getting drunk, getting into fights, smoking whatever they're smoking outside. And I think growing up, there was always that sense of like, don't mess this up. Like he had broken a generational curse. She had broken a generational curse. And it was my job as the firstborn, which is not, I don't know if that's biblical. It's definitely an unhealthy pressure, but I felt it growing up. Yeah. It's my job to keep this going because I don't want to go backwards. Wow. My family had a long history of alcoholism, and my dad, will celebrate 65 years of age this year, and he's never tasted alcohol in his life. Wow. At least so he says, if you're watching, Dad. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, it's amazing, I think, the legacy that I'm grateful to come from. So that's a big part of my story. I felt that pressure. Yeah, I got baptized with the Holy Spirit at a youth camp. And I was preaching. My first sermon was to children's church. And every kid in the children's church got saved. I think that's because I was handing out lollipops, So I was like, if you want to receive Jesus. Yeah.
You got to come down here to the front. Yeah. Count that.
Yeah, and take your lollipop. I told my pastor, and I'm grateful. It was a small Spanish church, small Spanish Pentecostal church in Brooklyn, New York, called the Second Spanish Pentecostal Church, which back then all the churches were numbered before they came up with cool names. And I told my pastor that. His name was Eliseo Aponte. And he said, wow, that's amazing. He goes, how about you preach on Sunday? And so it was the church on Sunday that I got to speak to. And it was a Spanish church, so I spoke in English and they translated. And my dad translated for me, so it was a really cool experience. Wow. I Christian cursed in our very first sermon, which is not really a curse, but and it's so traditional of an environment, you can't say the word but. Okay. But it's like a curse word. Yep. So I had said, my dad always says excuses are like buts. And then he refused to translate it because, but it's a curse word. So he was like, what? And I was like, excuses are like butts. And he was like, what? And I just thought he couldn't hear me. So I shouted it out even louder. Excuses are like butts. We all have them and they all stink. So, I'm grateful for my pastor giving me a chance. I think that's poured into me now. I want to give chances and opportunities for young pastors and preachers to go out and do it. So yeah, I've been preaching for a young age. We moved to Florida when I was 16 years old. And that was a tough time. Kind of walked away from the Lord at that point. I think one of the cool things about being in New York was, and I was just sharing this on the way here because I came in with our friends, and he was like, you ever get feedback that you look Jewish? And I'm like, yeah, I feel like I get that feedback. I look Italian, I look this. Growing up in New York, really multicultural, I look like a lot of people. I get along with a lot of people. And so that was really helpful. Moving to Florida was a different dynamic because I didn't know I was a minority until I moved to Florida. Wow. Once I moved to Florida, I moved to Brandon, Florida. Shout out Brandon. But it was at that point the whitest city in Central Florida, it felt like. That was the first time I'd experienced racism. That was the first time I ever realized that I was a minority, but it gave me an opportunity to hang out with more white people. And so I feel like at this stage of my ministry or in my life, what God was forming me at was being able to hang with whoever they are, despite the color of their skin or their background, because I know people like that. And so when I hang around certain ethnicities, there are parts of me that come out that mimic almost. And if you don't know me, you think I'm being fake, but it's actually just a part of my story.
Yeah.
And you're like that in the same way that the people who surround you, they're so different. I mean, you got people who look like you, and you got a ton of people who don't look like you, especially in Miami. Coming from Washington, that must have been a wild. Yeah, the opposite.
Yeah, it's kind of similar. I was 14 when we moved. You were 16?
I was 16 when we moved. Yeah.
Why did you guys move?
So my dad's one of 11, my mom's one of 9, and being the only believers, they were the ones that the entire family would run to. I remember my dad getting phone calls in the middle of the night, a brother locked up in jail and just needing someone to bail him out. And I think the toll that was taking on my parents' marriage was heavy and on their parenting. And so they felt like they needed to do a move that would put kids first and just for us. And I'm so grateful that they did. I definitely would not. I hated it at the time, moving, but I'm grateful that they did. I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have met Liz. I wouldn't have had the encounters with God that I had down here in Florida. So I'm grateful. I was so mad at them in the moment. I had a girlfriend and things like that.
Totally.
But it was exactly what God needed for us to do. And so, so we came down here, and man, since God rededicated my life to Jesus down here, because I kind of lost him in that transition. I was real upset at God.
How old would you have been during that time, or when you made that?
Yeah, when we made that move. Yeah, I just kind of gave up on Christianity. 16. And some people would be like, you can't lose your faith. I know there are different denominational perspectives on that. And I agree. I don't know that you can lose it, my perspective, but I do think you can forfeit it. I think you can look to God and be like, thank you for this gift, and I don't want it. And I remember praying that prayer to the Lord and saying, I know you're real. I know hell's real. I know heaven's real. But a God who really loved me wouldn't treat me like this. And so just kind of, you can have it. And I had an encounter, man, that night. I don't know how we want to get into it, but I had an encounter.
I want to hear it.
So I'm not, by the way, for those that know me, I'm not like the spooky, I'm Pentecostal, but I'm not,
Sure.
But that night, man, just had an encounter, a dream. Is it all right to share the dream?
Yeah, I would love to hear this.
So,
and how old are you at this point? 16?
16.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just had this prayer at night, and I was like, Lord, I don't want you. I know you're real. I know heaven's real. I know hell's real. I'll take it all because you're not good. And I think that's really what people wrestle with. It's not just the reality of God, it's the goodness of God.
Yeah.
And I think once you accept the goodness of God, it's easier to accept the reality of God. So God, I don't think you're good. So I said that prayer. I said, I give you up. That night I have a dream, man. And in this dream, it's one of those dreams kind of where you can't move. I feel like a demonic kind of an oppression. In my dream, it's a dream. I'm getting lifted up off my bed. I'm getting pushed down in my bed, and I'm getting shoved underneath my bed. And as it's all happening, I feel the Holy Spirit speak to me. And just not in words, but in a feeling like, you thought I left you because bad things were happening. Where you've been at in life has been with my protection. So here's one night when I pull back the angels, one night when I pull back my protection, one night when I pull back my provision. And then I just remember thinking, I said this out loud in the dream, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean any of the things that I said. Jesus, I love you. Come back inside my heart real quick like that. And I don't know the theology of it or any of that. All I know is I woke up on my floor, sheets on the side, and I have been following Jesus ever since that moment. True story, man. And so, that's what happened.
So like a definitive moment.
It was a definitive moment. Yeah. I want Jesus. I think it really did shape me too, because when things got hard, and this is all coming up now that we're talking, when things get hard, I imagine what it would have been like without him.
Yeah.
Without him. And so, a big part of our story going into church planning, when we first started the church, we had a different name. But my wife and I were pregnant. We were expecting our third. It ended up being twins. And while she was pregnant, one of the twins passed away in the womb.
Oh, man.
The other made it all the way to birth, but didn't have kidneys, didn't have lungs, was on a breath machine. The doctor told us when we were halfway through the pregnancy, you guys are going to be in for one heck of a journey. She was a Christian. He was a Christian. You're going to be one heck of a journey. And then in that moment when he said that, we said, well, that's going to be his name. His name's going to be Journey. So Journey Joseph Vasquez. And then post that, we thought it was just his name. He was born. They hooked him up to a ventilator, a breathing machine. He wasn't going to make it. So we unplugged him, and he passed away 7 hours after being born, suffocated in my arms.
Oh my God.
And so just seeing your baby trying to breathe and can't breathe, fighting for life. And then you're devastated as a dad because you have one job as a dad, one job. and that is protect your kid. One job. And so holding him, thinking, I'm failing at my one job. Because I can't fight whatever it is that he's going through. And so he passed away in my wife and I's arms. And after he passed away, we started getting emails because my wife was blogging about the whole journey. And there was this woman who wrote us and said, hey, I just want to thank you. Because we talked about how we were trying to get convinced to have an abortion. And because it was such a high risk pregnancy, it was so low chances. We just felt like if God was going to do something, God would do it. We're going to let him make that decision, not us. So this one lady said, hey, I'm just thankful. Your son died. She gave us her story. She had 4 kids. She was pregnant with her 5th, all from different dads. And the guy she's pregnant with, her 5th, isn't even sticking around. So she was like, I was going to abort. I was going to end this pregnancy. I read your story. I read Journey's story. I read how once you disconnected him from the breathing machine, he was fighting to stay alive for hours. And I realized my baby wants to be here too. So thank you. Journey died, but my baby's here. And so my baby's alive because your baby died. And then she would send us pictures of her daughter every year that she had a birthday, just to remind us of the impact. And so it was that moment when we got that email that the name of the church changed. And we were like, well, this is what our story is going to be then. Our story is going to be whatever you're going through, however dark it may be, it doesn't have to end there. It's a journey, right? And so we named it not after our son, but we named it out of the lesson that we learned from him. That just doesn't matter how dark. So we got one tattoo, and that is our son's name on our wrist. People be like, you're repping your church. I'm like, no, this is
bro, this is something else. Yeah.
This is something else. Wow,
I didn't know any of
stuck
that.
with us, man. Yeah, man, stuck with us. July 30th was his birthday and his death day.
So you knew before, when the baby was in the womb, there was complications.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What is that like in terms of like in the home, talking? Is that put like a gloom over the whole process? Yeah. Or you're like, no, we're speaking faith. This baby's going to be healed. It's a mixture of both.
So it's a crazy story. So when we went, it was a routine checkup. You know, you do the sonograms.
Yeah.
And that was when they found out that one of the twins had passed and that the amniotic fluid that the other baby was supposed to be in, it wasn't there or wasn't as much as it needed to be. But you need all that for the things.
How far along were you at that point already?
Oh man, we probably were 3 months in. It was like the first sonogram.
But you're going in like, we're excited to get some news today.
Bro, I bought that's back when Pandora bracelets were in. I don't know if Pandora bracelets are still in, but I had bought the little girl charm for Liz because I was like, we're gonna get our girl. Like, we're gonna get our girl. So I bought the little Pandora charm, showed it to her. I was like, in faith, we're gonna get our girl. So we went in, that was the news. What's crazy is that week we were scheduled to go to a church planning, kind of like an ARC.
Yeah.
We were scheduled to go to that.
Okay.
That week. So we get the news Tuesday. The training is 2 days away. And I look at her and I'm like, babe, do you want to go? Do you still want to do this? Do you still want to plant? Should we take a pause? Nobody's going to be mad if we pause. We're not letting anybody down. And she looked at me, tears on her face. And she said, no, we're going. And she said, this is my wife in a nutshell, if you've never met before. She said, I want to punch the devil in the face, is what she said. And bold faith, we went. We thought that we were going to start this church in spite of all that pain. And we did. But it was hard, man. Hardest thing we've ever been through. I still keep, so when we unplugged them, we took video of them. And so I keep that on my phone. And a lot of people that I say that to be like, man, that's super morbid, super dark. Why would you want to remember that? And I'm like, no, I keep it on my phone so I will never go through anything harder in my life. So I'll play that video before I go up to preach at VU when I get nervous. I'll play that video if they call us and tell us that we're going to lose our building. You know, you got to I'll play that video if I get criticized and it just reminds me, of how small that thing is. Like,
very good.
Half of the problems that we go through, maybe more, are not the kind of problems that shape us for eternity. But death is. And so it kind of shrinks under that.
Yeah.
And then 2, to remind me, and if the Lord can get you through that, he can get you through anything. And so still hurts, you know, that was the year we know how old he would have been.
9 years ago?
Yeah, we know how old he'd been by how old the church would have been. And so the church will turn 9 this year. So it would have been 9 years ago. It was right there.
I think you doing that is actually deeply, deeply Christian and actually so much a part of our history of who we are. When you think about the cross, the cross is a symbol of death, which is sort of hilarious when you think about it, because these days people wear it as jewelry, you know?
Right.
People kind of wear it.
Yeah.
Forget that we're supposed to actually carry it.
That's so good.
The idea for Christians back then, obviously it had so much symbolism, but one part is, this is the worst thing you can do to us. Kill us up on that cross like our savior.
Yeah.
We've already accepted that.
Yeah.
So now what?
And then what?
And then what?
And then what? To live as Christ, to die as gain. We just
I'm
preached
getting
a
chills.
sermon.
I'm saying, bro, like that's deeply, deeply Christian. So anyone that says this more, but I'm like, that's the opposite. That's you redeeming something that was very, very dark and out of
Thank
it.
you for that.
Wow.
That's a whole separate conversation too. I feel like we get shielded from death a lot in society today. And I had a pastor friend, an older pastor, tell me that was one of the big shortcomings with the world, but also Christianity, that we should see death, because death is a reminder, like you said, of the cross that we carry and where our home is. And so I don't know if you've ever seen anyone pass away in front of you, but when they are passing, that I'm sure you have as a pastor in hospital rooms, there's something about that moment that it's like almost like a window to eternity opens up, you know? And I remember watching that same day he passed away, 2 days later, I went to go see my pastor preach at a National Assemblies of God convention. And he would tell you, he was so nervous when he preached in front of him. It was the first time he was in front of all those thousands of pastors. And I was out there shouting him out best I could, encouraging him. But watching him be nervous, having just come out of what I had just experienced, I was like, put that in perspective. Remember how you feel right now. Nothing that happens on this pulpit is going to compare with what you're going through in life. And the victories are going to be in life. Yes, you experience victories on the pulpit. It's the victories in life that propel the victories in the pulpit. It's the victories in life and the losses in life that allow you to endure the losses and the victories on the pulpit and in ministry. So it's the worst moment of our life. One of those things where we look back, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't choose it. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, very good.
I wouldn't change it. Our church wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that.
I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no, you didn't know that.
I didn't know that story.
That's how the church got the name.
Yeah.
That's kind of what drove us. And
so at 16, you had this encounter with God.
Yeah.
So from like all through like the rest, I guess your junior year, senior year of high school, you're a man of God, and you're like back to
that was like
sermon,
senior year. Yeah, and then I went off to master's commission for a couple years. You got to call me to ministry. Came back, started an internship here in Florida.
Bro, all the things you say just make me want to go in deep dives. Master's commission, Royal Rangers.
Well, let me tell you the whole story.
You're my guy.
And
Tell it to me.
Then you can pick what you want to dive into. Then we came back. Then I became a district youth director for the Assemblies of God. And
that's where I think I remember first hearing about you from Chino Life.
Yeah, my boy Chino, man, Greater Church. Shout out.
He used to always be like, JJ, man. I'm like, oh, we were doing the rendezvous.
Yeah,
but I didn't really know who you were.
I love Chino. Great testimony, great story. And so, I was DYD. That was for 4 or 5 years. Alongside that, I was youth pastoring in Orlando at the same time. Then I felt God call me to higher education. And so I don't know if you know this part of my story, but I was a professor at Southeastern.
Wow.
Youth and family ministry professor for 3 years, working at SCU with Dr. Engel.
Yep.
I thought I wanted to be a teacher because I love teaching. But I wasn't aware of all of the administrative work that comes with that. And I wasn't aware of all the committees that you had to be a part of.
Yep.
So I was like, this is not fun. But that was where I met, I heard of ARC. First time I'd ever come across ARC. It was at a C3 church in North Carolina. Matt Fry.
Yep, I know that name.
And Chad Veach was preaching. And Matt Fry was sharing with me about ARC. He said, our church started in a farmhouse, and then we met ARC. And it's like, somebody would pay you to launch a church? That's wild. And that was the first time that the Lord had really deposited in my heart, like, hey, I think like church planning. But I didn't want to tell my wife, because my wife is like ride or die. She is like with me to the end. And I remember when we were dating, I was like, hey, what's God calling you to? What's God calling me to? And the one thing we both said we would never do was lead pastor.
How come?
Her dad was a lead pastor.
Okay.
Saw a lot of
bad experiences. And
experiences, a lot of the pain, the hurt. We were content in youth ministry. We were ready to go. It wasn't like that we were afraid of difficulties. Like we were talking about being missionaries in Africa. Like we loved the gospel. We loved the kingdom. It was just the one thing that we were like, we'd never want to do that. So when the Lord put it in my heart, I was like, God, you're going to have to speak to her, because if I say it, she'll jump on board. But then if it doesn't work, it's my fault. because she followed me and not you. And I know we're going to hit some hard times. And I want to be able to look at you, us both look at you and be like, take it up with the big guy. He's the one that told you to do this. So I sat on that for about 3 months. And then my wife was at a gas station one day and she's the most generous person in the world. Liz is the most generous person in the world. She will give you
you got a great
shirt
wife.
off her back. I sure do. She's amazing. So this guy, a guy came up to her at a gas station, asked her for some money. And she was like, yeah, take me to your car. I'll fill up your gas tank. And so she goes to the gas tank and sees a woman in the back seat with a pillow and a blanket and a baby. And it's like, is everything okay? And he goes, yeah, I just got released from prison. This is my wife. She came to pick me up in the car. This is all we own. This is all we have. And that's our kid. And this is all we have. And so she was so moved. She began to share the gospel with him, hooked him up with some connections back at our church, trying to get him a job, invited him to come to the church that we were youth pastors at that Sunday. Didn't know if he'd make it. His name was John. Her name was Rita. We still remember this. This is the shaping moment of our church as far as our mission is concerned. And so that Sunday, I happened to be preaching, which is a big deal because I was the youth pastor.
Yeah.
So you know how those youth pastor reps go out, bro.
Yeah,
they don't go out every Sunday.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I got reps that Sunday. So I was like, man, this is so cool. So I see John in the front row. He came to church and I'm preaching and I know his story. I know he doesn't know Jesus. I know Rita doesn't know Jesus. So I preach. We do the appeal at the end to give your life to Jesus. John and Rita raise their hand to give their lives to Jesus. And I'm blown away because I know they don't know Jesus. This is someone who had zero knowledge of Christ. And so we come down from the pulpit. I'm standing next to my wife. And she goes, John and Rita raise their hand and give their lives to Jesus. I'm like, I know, that's crazy. And she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, wouldn't it be awesome? She said, if there was a place where we could, where the entire mission of the place, she's like real careful not to use the word church. She's like, the mission of the place is to make Jesus accessible to anyone. So that no matter their background, no matter their history, they could meet Christ and start a relationship with him. And she's crying while she's telling me this. And I'm starting to cry. I'm like, are you talking about starting a church?
Yeah.
You know? And she's like, I think I am. I'm like, I've been sitting on this for 3 months. I was waiting for God to tell you. And that was the day.
That's
the church plant was
cool.
born. And that was the day our mission statement was born. So to make Jesus accessible to anyone. When we were offlining, you were telling me about, hey, you have a way of making biblical truth like understandable.
Yep.
Dude, I live for that. I love that. I believe Jesus is beautiful. And if you reject him, it's because you haven't seen him or you don't really understand him. You know the parable of the sower?
Yep.
We always talk about the weeds and the birds. Do you know the first reason why the seed did not take in? Do you remember?
Tell me.
It said because it landed on the side.
Yeah.
But when the disciples asked him, Jesus, for the meaning of the side, this is gonna blow your mind. He goes, oh, those represent the number one reason why people don't receive the gospel. Those represent those who heard the gospel and didn't understand it. So that means, according to Jesus, the number one reason why people don't receive the gospel is because they don't understand it, because it was presented in a way that did not land on the soil.
Very good.
So the seed could be the seed. I just got to aim.
Very good.
Right? I just got to aim. I got to have intentionality to where I throw my seed. I can't just preach and expect, well, if you didn't get it, that's the Holy Spirit's job to illuminate. And that's not, I understand that rejuvenation and regeneration, all of that is spiritual, but I have a responsibility
Very good.
as a communicator, as a sower of seed, to make it understandable.
What's the Ethiopian eunuch
There you go.
out there reading?
Yeah, man.
Do you understand what you're reading?
Do you understand what you're
How
reading?
can I unless someone teaches me? So he's got a Bible.
Exactly.
He just don't know what it is that he doesn't comprehend.
And so I used to be offended by this compliment, and now it's the greatest compliment I could ever receive. When you preach, it's just so simple. I used to walk away there and go, I don't want to be simple.
Yeah, I don't want to be simple.
I want to be deep. I want to be profound.
Profound.
I want to be profound.
I want to crush it.
Yeah. But it means the world to me now. And so I love to tackle tough topics. I love to.
Yeah, tell me how you learned to preach and who you were looking to.
Yeah.
I think that your preaching is very, very authentic. I think that you cover a lot of ground, lots of different topics.
Thank you.
So easy. I think this is, once again, these are all meant to be compliments, but just so easy to understand what it is that you're teaching through. I think that you've got your dynamics, your insight. It's all biblically based, but then you make it very personable and relevant. And I just deeply, deeply appreciate it. But let's talk a little bit about preaching, because I don't get to talk a lot about it on Mature Me. So I know I can tell you love talking.
I love talking about preaching.
But talk to me a little bit about that in terms of, because it seems like even, and I guess I'm also simultaneously going, you were always preaching, but you didn't feel like the best vehicle was going to be as a lead pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, that's all very interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I loved preaching. My very first sermon was an illustrated sermon. So when that pastor asked me to preach, I preached on Ephesians 6, and I went to Toys R Us and I bought this Roman centurion outfit. It was supposed to be for Halloween. And I started talking about the shield and the helmet.
Let's go.
And the breastplate of righteousness. And so I've always it's always just had to make sense to me.
Yeah.
I think every great sermon has to come out of great Bible study. And so I love to camp out on the parts of scripture that don't make sense to me. Because I'm like, if this doesn't make sense to me, it probably doesn't make sense to somebody else. And I feel like God's calling me to understand it for me first. And so I love that. I love to spend time on the things that are tough to understand. And not because the Bible is super complicated, but because, we live so many thousands of years away from when it was first written. There's cultural things, there's historical things. But yeah. And then there's a difference, I think, between being an evangelist and being a pastor. And I think I wrestled with that for a while. I think one of the things that I really loved about being a DYD, which is a district youth director, for those, you kind of oversee hundreds of churches and you put on youth conventions and you travel to different cities and you preach, was that it allowed me to experience ministry on a wide basis. So I know a lot of guys who become pastors first. God gives them a platform and then they start to travel, and sometimes it comes at the expense of home base.
Sure.
For me, having traveled so often, I kind of got that out of my system and realized that doesn't fulfill me. What really fulfills me, going back to my Master's Commission history, is discipleship. What really fulfills me is seeing someone go on a journey, being changed and transformed. And that's when I started to realize, oh man, I'm a pastor. And I love being a pastor. I think a big part of being good at what you do or enjoying what you do is understanding what you're not and just being okay with what you're not. Every time I'm with you, I'm always like, bro, your capacity. But the reason why you're able to do it is not just because you're good at juggling 8 things, because you're called to everything that you do, whether it's pastors and leaders, you have that apostolic calling, whether it's teaching or preaching, whether it's mature me, if everything that you do, the run, the convention that you put on, VuCon coming up, and that's why you're able to do it, because you know what you're called to do. But when you begin to step out of that call because of comparison or because of your definition of success, man, I just want to be faithful. Amen. And I know God's called me to be a pastor. So that means I say no to a lot of things as well, because I know that's what God's called me to do. But I also know God's called me to preach. And so there's times when I could be investing my education in other areas. And I'm like, I just want to continue to become a better communicator, because I feel like that's the thing that God's called me to do. So a lot of influences in my life. You're one of the influences in my life.
Who were you listening to, like 20 years old? Like names I don't know, or like, nah, bro, like this guy really impacted me. You do know him? Or
was YouTube even out when I was 20, bro?
No.
I don't think so.
But I feel like you would have been getting a hold of something.
I mean,
because you definitely like came from a world, and God bless it, but I feel like you would have risen through the ranks in terms of a communicator.
Yeah.
And your DYDs back then. Yeah. When you were a DYD, who were you having come in to preach youth convention?
Dude, you know who was one of the early? Sammy Rodriguez.
Okay, yep.
Sammy Rodriguez Jr., man. He was my DYD when I was in New York, a preacher's preacher.
Yep.
And so he was definitely a voice of influence. I think you see a lot of great communicators come through those. Yep. I just remember seeing somebody preach for the first time. I don't know if it was like this with you. You obviously have this ministry lineage, the Wilkerson name, and the anointing that comes down through that. So I don't know that it's necessarily genetic, but I do believe in generational blessings, right?
Sure.
And so you grew up seeing them preach. I never had that. My dad was he was a Royal Ranger leader. Yep. So was my mom. But I had the people at youth camp. I had the people at youth convention. So we grew up in conventions. We watched those people growing. And I remember watching somebody preach for the first time at a youth convention and just thinking, that's what I want to do. 12 years old. And I was like, that's what I want to do. And I know it's not like that for everybody.
Yeah.
But I just felt that clear call. That's what I want to do. And I thought that was just, being an evangelist. But then I found out later, pastoring. So I love that.
I think for me, when I look back on my story, I definitely, from a young age, always was really sensitive to the Lord, really serious about God in my junior high years. Would have done some public speaking things for sure at a very young age.
Okay.
Speeches.
What was the first time you preached? And do you remember your first sermon?
I think there's like a series of them, but my real first sermon that I would say for me that I would have written it was 17 years of age. 17. I had a real encounter with Jesus in Australia. We had moved in 98 from Washington to Miami. That's a pretty big move. All the things you're kind of talking about. I would have grown up in a very white context.
Same thing, but the other side.
My grandfather pastored an early style mega church, had all the things there. I would have grown up in that bubble, which was actually very good. But now my freshman year of high school, moving to Miami, I'm going to
quinceañeras.
You already know, bro. I'm out here trying to salsa. I'm taking salsa lessons, bro. which I still need salsa lessons. I need to go back. But all of that was such a cultural shock, and I hated it at the time. I would agree completely with you. Looking back, I'm so thankful to my parents, and what we're seeing God do in Miami now today would have never ever happened without my dad making this radical move.
Yeah.
But
were you a fan at the time of that move or no?
I think I was like at 14 because I was at 14. Before that, I was pretty mature in the Lord back in Washington.
Wow.
And I don't think I knew what Miami was.
Right.
And my older brother was kind of saying good things about it. I was with my dad. My dad was going to be home for the first time, which that's a whole nother pod we could do, because I grew up for the first 14 years of my life with a rhythm with my dad that he was home 2 days a week, and you get used to that.
Wow.
And he gets used to it. But now we moved to Miami. He's there 7 days a week,
wow.
which you think is going to be awesome, but not really, because he don't know any of our daily rhythms, and that creates all sorts of friction. My dad and I are very similar. We're hard-headed. So I think there was a lot of rebellion against my dad, a lot of disobedience. But my first year in Miami was like cool. And then my sophomore and junior year was just running from God. I was going to a school far away from my house. I was sort of just on an island all by myself. My parents didn't really all the way have enough wherewithal as to what I was up to.
Man,
and they're
trying to be a teenager and
all those things. And my parents are trying to carve out this church, and they were the best parents. But like, I was just living in another dual life. I'm coming to church with mom and dad waving, but then going and doing whatever I wanted. But at 17, my senior year, that was the most pivotal year of my entire life, if I really think about it, because I had an encounter with God in Adelaide, Australia. And I came back.
What were you doing there?
My dad was preaching like at a Planet Shakers event. Went with him. And I just had I'm a pretty emotional person by nature, but this wasn't emotional. This was very conscious. And like, I just felt like I heard the Holy Spirit say, how long are you gonna run from your call? Wow. And I just came back different, bro. Like, just cut every relationship.
Dang.
Stop drinking, stop fooling around with girls. And if you can believe this, that would have been like, man, was that November or December? Maybe it was even January. February of that same year, I meet Dawn Cherie. And that's probably really my guiding light, because I met her in Nashville.
Yeah.
And
Bible college.
It wasn't Bible college. I was still in high school.
Oh, what?
So it's my senior year, and I go to visit my brother.
Right. You picked your college because you found out she was close to there.
You got it.
Got you.
So we just meet. Now I'm on the phone with this girl who loves the Lord. I got to keep it straight and narrow. But there was a little Presbyterian youth group up in Fort Lauderdale that I used to go to on Sunday nights. And out of that transformation experience, I leaned into the youth pastor there quite a bit.
Did you go up there because it was different at home?
It was just different. I
didn't go up in a PK thing, so now I got PKs for kids. So I'm trying to figure it out.
My church was just, I'm this white kid in North Miami, and I'm just a fish out of water. I definitely was participating in both. This was a Sunday night thing, so nothing was happening at my church. Okay. All my friends from school up there were kind of going.
Got you.
So I went there. That youth pastor was doing like his youth retreat, which back then would have felt so big. It was probably 40 junior hires.
Ginormous.
And I would have ripped off a message that I heard at Planet Shakers conference to some degree about Joseph and the Dreamer.
Yeah.
And I came and I preached it
go.
At that youth camp. It was not good. I slept in the bunks with junior hires, I'm 17. And that was what I would call my first sermon.
Yeah.
But I would have gone to Bible college. And then Bible college, I was serious. I'm like, I started a Bible study at Bible college, built it from 0 to 60 people on Thursday nights. And I kind of would preach at it. It was sort of like, it was a prayer meeting.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it a Bible study. It was a prayer meeting. And I would maybe you kind of learn leadership is what I was learning. You got to say something up front. Yeah. And I was in a fraternity, and I found myself as the chaplain, as the president. So I started learning leadership.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is, I think at 17, I was like, I'm going to go into ministry. But in my mind, I think I'm going to speak. Yeah. I'm going to speak on stages. And even when I took my job after I'm married with my dad, I come back 2007. And I think even in my mind then I was like, yeah, I'm going to speak. I'm going to speak. Not some ambitious negative thing. It was just that's just what my context was.
Yeah.
And it was probably about a year into the rendezvous that I met a guy named Carl Lentz. And Carl Lentz opened me into kind of the Hillsong world.
Yeah.
And I met Brian Houston and Joel Houston.
Yeah.
And it was probably a year into full-time ministry that I had a revelation of the Church of Jesus Christ at large. And I said, wait a minute. This is what I want to do.
Wow.
I'm a church guy. I want to build a community of Jesus followers.
Yes.
And preaching is one of the things I will do.
Yes.
But it is not my ultimate thing that I will do. And so that began a big journey in me that I had opportunities to preach, and God opened up a lot of doors speaking in different spaces. And I love to preach, and I want to talk about preaching. It's a fun thing to talk about. It's a little bit niche maybe for everyone that's listening, but
Sure.
I think some people actually like sometimes the inside of a preacher, and I am a preacher. But at 41 years of age, I'm a church builder, bro. If that means we're building the church, if that means we're serving on the outreach day, that means counseling, like I'll do all of it. I like every part of it. I like kids ministry. I've been in the parking lot the last month. It's not because I'm so great. I'm just going, I love it, bro. I love building a church. And the thing that I know that I'm obsessed with watching is watching somebody meet Jesus and then watching them become the man or the woman of God that they've been called to be. And I love seeing people even leave our house and go further. Chino Life is a perfect example, but bro, this guy's leading a church. Yeah. It's a mutual friend of ours. But Nelson, who's behind the camera here, bro, he got saved with us 15 years ago when I was a youth pastor. Watching his life mature and grow. Yeah. That actually is what I think I'm on this earth for.
There's nothing like it. The local church is the hope of the world. And it's undefeated.
Come on.
And it was Jesus's idea, not ours. And there will never be another plan to save the world other than the church until the day that Jesus comes back for his bride.
Let's go.
The church. And I think that's a conversation, maybe another podcast that is so prevalent today, because there's a lot of movements and a lot of voices talking about the individualism of Christianity and find it on your own. And it doesn't even have to be my church. And then, it's kind of sus when two pastors are talking about, you go to another church, go to another church. Bro, go to some church.
But that's been my home. I've been saying that.
Church.
I just want you in a church.
It doesn't even got to be my church. And I love the fact that there are so many different churches, because you're going to find one that aligns with you and aligns with the way that you see God and the way that you see the scriptures and the way that your personality is and the type of person that you are. But the local church is the hope of the world, man. And I love it. I remember being a professor at Southeastern. There was the football players were mandatory, had to take like one Bible class. So I got a bunch of these football players who don't want to be in my Bible class. And because I'm a young professor, I'm doing like the intro to whatever it is, right? So I'm doing like an intro to Christianity. I got this one football player who's like, man, he just does not want to be here. And like he raises his hand and he's like, well, do you have to go to church to be a Christian? And I don't even know if we were talking about the church. It just had so angry. I don't want to be here. I don't want to tackle somebody. Do you have to be a Christian to go to church to go to be a Christian? And I said, well, it depends what you define as church.
Come on.
If you define church as a building, then no, maybe there's a model out there that doesn't exist without a building. But if you define church as what it is as a community, no, you can't be a Christian without being in a community. That's the game. Like, if you're doing anything else, that's not this game. That's another game. You can't dunk a football or kick a basketball. Like, this is the game. It's being in community. How do you even know if you're growing if you're not around people? Like, I was talking to my son this morning about like feedback and about how I get feedback as a pastor, because I was trying to coach him on how he should be taking feedback from his mom and his dad. And I was like, hey, don't worry. Like, I get feedback all the time. And I'm grateful for the people in my life who are like, hey, you could have said this different. Hey, I thought that was a little arrogant. Hey, I thought you was it sounded angry when you said that. Now I look at it as this, they're not mad at me. These people love me. This is an opportunity for me to grow, an opportunity to develop that I would have completely missed out on if I wasn't in community. What's ironic is the things that we don't like about church are actually the things that shape us. The friction, the people. That's a part of what iron sharpens iron. That's a part of what makes us us. And the only way you don't think that you need it is if you think that you're better. I had one person say, I don't go to church. I said, why? He was like, because church is a hospital. I was like, that sounds like a pretty good reason. He's like, yeah, but there's a lot of sick people at a hospital. It's like, so what if you go there and you catch what they got? I'm like, bro. So in your metaphor, you're healthy?
Which sounds like what Jesus spoke directly to the Pharisees. I didn't come for the healthy, I came for the sick. They're like, oh, we good then.
Yeah, exactly.
No, bro. I'm speaking directly to you. You missed the whole point. You missed it. You've got to admit that you're sick.
Yeah, man. I tell people all the time, we don't come to church because we think that we're perfect. We're here because we know that we're not.
Preach.
And we're all trying to get better. We're all trying to grow.
Maybe I just heard you say this, or I heard someone say it, which I think is so beautiful. Like I like all the different pictures that the scripture gives us about the church. The church is a body. The church is a bride. The church is a building. I mean, we're living stones.
Living stones, yeah.
But the bride one just hits, especially once you're married. It's like, you can't tell me,
heck yeah,
Rich, bro, I love you, but man, I ain't down with Don Tree. It's like, yo, JJ, it don't work this way with me, bro. You can't be cool with me and not cool with my wife. Like, she is me. Or vice versa, my wife. I can't be like, girl, I love your face, but your body, like
Yeah, always.
put a blanket over that.
Yeah.
Like, she'll cut me now.
Yeah, that's right.
And how many times do we kind of do that where it's like, I like Jesus, but I don't like his church. Or,
man.
yo, Jesus, I'm down with the head, but not the body.
I love the church.
And
matter of fact, real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but because last year I learned something. Because last year I was preaching a lot, and my wife and I, we had sabbatical, 5 weeks. It's a break that we take in our church. Some pastors do that. And we didn't go to church last year if I wasn't preaching. So, but she wouldn't go if she didn't travel with me. And so there was a summer where the first time she was at church was at VU. And it had been like 4 weeks without being in community. And we were literally on one of the beaches of Miami, beautiful, sun, everything. People are bringing us the little drinks and the stuff, non-alcoholic. And it was just, it was amazing. And she was talking to me. It's also around the time where our son passed away. And she's talking to me about this depression that she's walking through. And we didn't understand it then, but we were looking back. We were like, babe, we've been out of church for too long. So now on our sabbatical, every Sunday, we're at a church.
Yep.
And it could be a local church here in Orlando. And they don't even know I'm coming. I don't need VIP seating, bro. I just need to be with people growing and developing and being encouraged and being in community and worshiping. Like, I am a church guy. If I wasn't a pastor, I'd go to church. I need the community of believers to grow in my faith.
During 2020, though, I got that revelation again.
Oh my gosh.
Because during 2020, I'm like, oh,
yes,
this has saved me. This thing just going to church has saved me countless hours of therapy.
Oh my God.
Because there is something, take belief out of it.
Yeah.
You go in, sing some songs. You don't like the songs.
No.
The person on the stage is not good.
Yeah.
Not good melodies. You getting up and declaring God is good.
Yes.
Even though you don't believe it.
Yes.
You sitting down and then listening to somebody, even though you don't like what he's saying, it's offending you. You don't do that anywhere else in society. And there's something so healthy about doing that practice. That's a word that we don't use enough. It's like, you go to the gym. I don't like going to the gym always. It's my practice. It's my habit.
Yeah.
And I think I heard you say this, which is like, if the church is the bride, it's like, well, do you have to be a Christian and go to church? Well, no, but like, you also don't have to go home to be married, but let's see how that works out.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds true.
Like, you don't have to go home, but how long are you really going to stay married? Never going home.
No,
how long are you really going to follow Jesus?
It's true.
Never going home.
Yeah.
That's a word. And so I think what you just said, I think every believer should have a community that they're a part of. It sure does not have to be mine.
Or mine.
And I by no means think that we are the best church. I like our church the most. It's the one I'm a part of.
Same.
And whatever I'm doing, I'm going to be about it, bro.
Yeah.
So if I'm out here running,
I'm
out here running going, this is the best day of my entire life.
Absolutely.
And if we're eating at the ale house late night, eating ribs and tired, we're like, bro, this is the best day of my life.
You can do that when you're running 8 miles, bro. Those calories
That's
fall right off,
when
bro.
you're running like that, you just like eat whatever you want.
I love the local church, man. And then when people leave the church, which happens, I know this is a niche topic, but I'm sure you have a lot of pastors that follow you that watch it. It doesn't hurt as much if I know they're going to a church. Yeah. The kingdom still wins.
Yeah, good.
The kingdom still wins.
You more feel like a failure when they just like, I'm done with church.
Jesus,
You're like,
I'm
dang,
done.
what did this play? How did we get that so wrong?
How did that happen? But I love it when they go to, I recommend them churches. Here's some great ones. And I mean, but you gotta be in community, man. It's not gonna work without that.
Back to preaching.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about like, you know where you're going 6 weeks from now. You are just getting a word this week. Like, give me that flow a little bit, like your rhythm of that.
Yeah. So on sabbatical, I take a time to work on. So I kind of asked the Lord, what's like the overarching theme of the year? I think yours 2 years ago was mature. Was when the podcast started.
Yep.
Right. Then you did mature church,
mature me, mature us, mature church. Yeah.
Yes. And so I seek the Lord for that. Every year, I kind of got that idea from Mike Todd with his Vision Sunday. So I can't do it just like he does it because nobody could do it like he does it. Yeah. But I love the idea of an overarching theme that we can all rally with. So that'll happen in July. And then I try and break that down into chunks and smaller chunks. And I don't know how far out you are, but big concept, I'm pretty much out 6 months to a year, big concept wise. In the weeds, details, trying to figure out illustrations, which is something that I love to do. I'm in there kind of like the week of. And then I'm not a manuscript preacher. I was surprised to know, your audience might be surprised to know that you are a manuscript preacher. You showed me your sermons, which blew my mind because you're able to deliver so freely.
I got to write it. And then I don't think I I don't think the manuscript's better. I don't read it, but I got to write it.
So that it makes sense in your head.
Yeah. Cause I'll just talk
what
about.
do you do if you get lost like in a thought or a point? Cause then you have to find
I don't
yourself
do
in the
that.
manuscript.
No, I don't do that.
You just keep going.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the practice is to write it. And then if I have to go back to something, I can't just register an emotion without seeing the words.
Oof.
Does that make sense? So I got to go
1000%.
back to it. Like my friend Judah Smith, who's I think one of the greatest preachers of all time. Like I don't get his notes at all. It's like, dude, this looks like some sort of like covert. Like, is this like
or Stephen Furtick?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, his weird
it's got
note cards,
scribble on a piece of paper.
And I don't know how but Stephen rarely repreaches anything.
Wow.
So that's his whole thing. I'm like, yeah, bro, like, no, bro, like,
let's go be on the podcast.
Yeah,
let's go.
We're gonna put legs on. I talked to our team like, we gotta put legs on stuff, bro. If I get one good thing this month, make this thing last.
I
but
love that.
The manuscript for me is just more about the practice getting. But yeah, I'm totally 4,000 words every week.
Wow, that's
about
amazing.
that.
Yeah, so I'm about 9 hours a week, 9 to 10. Internalizing, maybe I'll take it to 10 to 12.
Give me your favorite, like in the last 6 months, year, whatever comes to your mind first, like your favorite illustration that you've given.
Oh man, can we talk about illustrations for a little bit?
Yes,
I love preaching with illustrations.
And teach me how to do it better.
No,
but I think it always is the missing thing that I'm like looking for. Like I got a beautiful outline on Acts 17.
Can we first
right
talk
now.
about the hate that props are getting?
Oh, bro, they're coming for you, bro. They're coming for you.
Can we talk about the hate that props are getting? I've been on that page like 5 times already.
Bro, your rock climbing one though is bro, like you hanging from a rock climbing wall is all time, bro.
That was fun. That was fun.
They're coming for it.
I don't know why. I think what bothers me is how people separate creativity from truth. So like if it's palatable, remember my whole thing is making the message understandable. So if I make it palatable, I'm somehow watering it down. Why am I watering? If the truth is the truth, there's this old Jewish allegory about the truth. It said the truth showed up to the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking people to let it in, but it showed up naked, so no one would let it in. So the truth went back, put on story, knocked on the door, and everyone let it in. And so I feel like story, illustration, object, which by the way was Jesus's MO, it's the way truth gets in. And it's almost like, no, unless you preach the naked truth, it's not truth. Unless you preach the naked truth, it's not biblical. It's not fundamental. Unless you preach the naked truth. I'm like, I'm not down for watering on truth, but can we put some underwear on truth? Can we put some clothes on truth? Because if you just preach truth with no underwear, don't clip that. But I mean, if you just preach truth with no underwear, people are not going to receive the truth. So I love when people walk into our building, hear a message, and they go, I didn't agree, but I got it. That's a great compliment. I didn't agree because I understood what you were saying, but I wasn't offended. I got it. I understood. Well, the truth is necessarily always offensive. Yes and no. It doesn't have to be offensive. There are things that you're not going to get away with. It's going to offend some people. That's more feedback on them, but you got to at least try. You got to at least try. And so, I don't know why there's so much heat on it.
I think part of what that is, from my observation, you can push back on any of it, is I think that what we're doing week in and week out is really towards a local audience. And I think that people forget that like we're getting up, and by no means am I trying to like look for sympathy. I'm just more trying to articulate it. It's like,
they need to know what it's like.
I love what I do.
What we do is weird. Remember you said it, Stephen Furtick? He was like, this is weird.
It's very, very weird.
We're getting up there in front of the same people.
Yes.
Sermons with new stories. They've already heard 4 times.
You got it. And I think, so I'm not looking, I love what I do. I love every part of it. I'm going to take the good, the bad. I'm going to take the criticism. I'm going to learn. I'm not trying to stand on my soapbox, but I think that what gets forgotten is that I'm speaking every week. I'm in I preach 4 times on a Sunday in 3 different locations, different audiences. And I do that about 35 to 37 times every year for a decade, for 18 years. In all of that, my great hope and desire is to minister to the person in that place. I'm not trying to be famous. You can say that I am. I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to reach people with the gospel. And I don't care where the content came from. I'm trying to be effective in the moment.
second we convince ourselves we're too tired for church is the second we think that church is about us. We don't go to church to give. We go to church to give to God. We go to church to worship God. We go to church to learn more about the Father, because when we learn about the Father, we give more glory to Him. We're not going to church just to gain. We're going to give something to Christ.
Hey there, it's Bryce Crawford. I'm so excited to be in Miami, Florida this summer for VooCon 2025. I want you guys to join me for 3 incredible transforming days of worship, arena sessions, workshops, and more. If you are looking to expand your community, personalize your faith, and invest in your future, this moment, I believe, is for you. Get your tickets today at VooCon.com. You don't want to miss that. It's going to be such a special time, and I'll see you guys there.
He is the I am, and you are the amen. It is your agreement that brings the anointing. It is your obedience that brings the breakthrough.
They could keep talking junk all they want. We're going to be serious about the Lord's business. Signs, wonders, miracles, healing. The city is going to shift in the name of Jesus.
I think what happens though is that we're living in this globalized times.
Yeah.
We all put our messages on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then I think when they create a page or something, it looks really cringe because it looks very, very shallow.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone used a balloon this week.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone's used ladders. Oh, you guys are just you guys are just parroting one another.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a whole lot we could talk about that, where it's like, I think guys are borrowing. I think preaching's a different thing.
Yeah.
That we are not up there giving our, we're up there using age-old truths, and we're trying to serve people.
Yeah.
And whatever is going to make the truth go down for that audience,
Yes.
we want them to learn that. And if I could learn something from you today,
Yeah.
I'm going to use it this Sunday.
1,000%.
Because this is not my TED Talk that I'm
Yeah.
going to go sell
Yeah.
and make my life off. This is week to week in the
Yeah.
trenches of pastoring. But I
What a
think
great reminder.
I think what happens is that it's more about the clip generation.
Yeah.
And you put it all together, it's like, oh, it looks kind of like, yeah, it's kind of feels cringe. And then I think there is people that at times just imitate. And so something can be very, very authentic for JJ.
Yes.
And then somebody else
That
like, oh,
part
that
is
works
true
for
too.
JJ.
That part is true too.
If that's working for JJ, I'll just start using it. Like Rich, that ain't you. And when you do it, it's like that weird armor you're putting on.
Yeah.
It's not effective, bro. And all that does though is not just hurt me.
Yeah.
It also, you kind of pay the brunt of my
Dude,
mistake as well.
That is so
And there's a
wise.
level of that.
That
So
is true.
I think you just got to turn it off and go, this is who I am. I'm going to keep running my race.
This is who I am. This is what works for me. I do stories and illustrations because that's how the world makes sense to me.
Yep.
When
I think you should keep going. I love your illustrations.
I see them and I don't, it's not that like I'm afraid of a box or anything like that. It's how the world makes sense to me. What really stuck out to me and why I do illustrations, and maybe this will help others who are afraid to do it or being criticized, or Romans 1 says that all of nature is preaching Jesus. The Bible teaches how Christ holds all things together. If all of nature is preaching Jesus, if all of creation is preaching Jesus and Christ is in all things, then I just have to sit with something long enough to see Jesus in it. And when that thing begins to preach, you start to see aspects of God. I remember the first time this really hit me. I had just read that scripture, Romans 1, and I was going out on a hike. And I was like, all right, God, show me who you are in nature. And I'm walking out and I see this spider and the spider, this wind came and it blew the spider out and his web kind of ripped a little bit. And I was like, yeah, that's a devil. And the Holy Spirit is the wind that blows it up. And I just remembered the Holy Spirit speaking to me as I was watching it, and the spider began to redo his web. This is how he spoke to me. He was like, no, remember Christ is in all things. He said, see how that spider, how the web came down and then it went right back to rebuilding it? He was like, Christ will never stop trying to catch you. No matter how times you run, no matter how hard you run, no matter how many difficult moments you go through, he's never going to stop trying to not catch you, eat you. It's the illustration that can go all the way. Listen to other things with the illustration. Yeah. It breaks down at some point, but he's never going to stop pursuing you. And I just see it. I see it in everything. So when I watch movies, my kids will know. They're like, that's so dad. In the middle, I'll pause it if we're at home. I'm like, that'll preach. I have a note. I have a folder in my Evernote of just illustrations and stories, and I keep it. It's called sermon series ideas and sermon ideas, and it's just God speaking to me. But I'm never. Here's another thing. I never start a sermon going, where am I going to put the illustration?
Right.
Because then you're forcing something that's not not there or not in you. Like, I don't think I'm using an illustration when I come down to VU, and so, but I'm not forcing it. I'm not like, oh, they're expecting it, I got to fit that. And the message didn't call for it. So I think whenever you try to be funny, whenever you try and be illustrative, whenever you try and tell it, I think that's when you start to be less genuine. I think you just got to kind of, what is the sermon calling for in that moment? And then just be true to you, which it's easier said than done, because we're all amalgamations of the influences on our life. And so I think when you're first starting out in preaching, if there's any young preachers, it's totally okay for you to sound like someone else. It's the only way you know how. It's what you saw. But over time, that'll evolve. It'll become you. But it's okay if you have someone else's pace or rhythm. I don't care. You're not trying to do anything. You're just trying to be understandable. Just make it understandable. I like to break down preaching in the beginning just by asking myself, I think this is a big shift from teaching to preaching. Just ask myself, what's the problem? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? What's the pain point? I think the best preaching isn't a vitamin, it's a Tylenol. And so I think if you approach your sermon as this is just going to help people get better, then maybe they listen, maybe they don't. How many times have you forgotten to take your vitamins? A ton of times. But if you approach your sermon like a Tylenol pill,
I like that,
where you go, what's the pain point here? So I have a campus pastor who's preaching a message when we do campuses, and his message is on radical obedience. I was like, all right, I love and his message is great. I was like, let's work on the title, because the title is what you're preaching about. Your title should be why you're preaching it. What is the pain point that someone is walking into church with, right? That radical obedience is the solution to. So then you start approaching preaching from that perspective, because then when you start to preach from the pain perspective, everybody in the room who identifies with that pain is like, oh, I know that feeling. Oh, I know how that is. I'm going through that right now. And now they're in, right? So I wouldn't start a sermon saying, I want to speak to you about Paul, because nobody cares about Paul. I want to speak to you about suffering. Paul's life is a great image of suffering, and I'm suffering. And so now I'm pulled into it.
Very good.
So we start with the problem. Then we talk about how to solve the problem through scripture. I usually like to start with something practical, because if you don't believe in Jesus, you might deny the spiritual truth that I make, but there are practical claims in this Bible that can help you live better. And then at the end, I always bring it back to the heart issue. And so I go to the last 3 minutes of every sermon I've ever preached, and it's always going to end on Jesus. I feel like the great catfishing of preaching, the great rug pull of preaching, is to make you think for 35 minutes that I'm speaking about you. And then at the end, you find out all along I was speaking about Jesus.
Very good.
To make it feel like it's about you long enough to get you in.
Very good.
To then go, and now there's nothing you can do.
Very good.
That's what you come back in, because what we're talking about, there's a heart issue to every sin. There's a heart issue to every dilemma. What you're talking about is only something the Spirit of God can change. And then we bring it back to Jesus, and that's salvation right there. So I start with the problem. I'll try and bring it to something practical that even an unbeliever can be like, oh yeah, I can with that, I get that. And then finally get to a problem that there is no practical solution for.
Brilliant.
That only is Christ. And it's usually that kind of flow throughout the message that I'm trying to accomplish.
I'm starting this week in this thing called Your God is Too Small. And what I want the result to be is faith to enlarge. As we're heading into VuCon, and it's going to be this experience. And so I want expectation high. And I don't know all the way yet if I'm going to stay rooted. I know this week I'm going to be in Acts 17, where Paul's in Athens at Mars Hill. I think I might just stay there for 4 weeks and at least kind of take different parts of the text and then expand into other things. But this week, I just want to kind of introduce this idea that we box God in. And I had yesterday, I just told the team, get a box.
Let's go.
Put a label on it.
Let's go.
And make the label say fragile, God inside, handle with care. Ooh. But I don't all the way really know. What I don't like about a proper illustration is like, hey, and this is your box. And then like I leave it over there. It's like, or just sits on the stage. I've done that a million times.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's got a thread.
I don't always know how to thread it. And that's why I'll hit you about, I'm like, and I feel like I have to break the box down. But what am I pulling a box cutter out this weekend?
Yeah.
Like I kind of have a simple outline. I'm walking through the text, and I'm going to talk about beliefs. I'm going to talk about boxes, and I'm going to talk about barriers. And ultimately, Paul is going to land there at the end about repenting. So I just want to bring in an acknowledgement that we do this. You know what I'm saying? And when I use the word repentance, to me, it's just a confession of saying, hey, what is my belief about Jesus? I got to land on that. What are the boxes? Have I made my God too small? Tozer talks about, we all have a mental image of God, and how we see God is the most important thing about ourselves. Yeah. And then these barriers ultimately becomes my pride. Like, I don't have to really make a decision all the way. Yeah. Acts 17, what's happening there is they've got many idols. They've got many gods. They've got one God. It's the unknown God. So their ignorance is not this idea that they don't have like a decision made. They don't know the truth once again.
I love
now
that.
Jesus is being brought.
That's so good, Rich.
But how do I break the box down up there? Like, I don't know if I'll even use the box because sometimes I'll be like, oh, this is like cringe. But I like the idea of if I could work with the box.
Yeah. So I love that concept so much. I think whenever you use an illustration, the illustration has to have layers. So the best ones do. Now they all don't.
That's what we talked about that one time when we were doing that Monopoly, man.
Yes.
I was trying to figure out how to keep preaching.
Expecting it to do what you did, but then when he started following you, I was like, dang, that's so good.
So I worked it. There we go. Good.
The layer, because it hit on different layers. So for the box thing, the fragile, I love that. Some things that come to my mind right away that I would research on. Idols, they were smaller.
Yep.
In the scripture, with the tribe of Dan, they talk about the idol was so small, you're able to sit on it, right? So these gods that we carry, like the difference between our God and the God of the idols is that people would carry their gods, and their gods were fragile. So you can put the idol in a box and be like, this is God, I'm carrying him. It doesn't work that way. He carries us. Ooh. And then maybe something like you get in a box or something, but it's like a box that doesn't break. But so you're still using the idea of box. So instead of having a God that you're carrying everywhere that you're afraid of breaking, right? I think that's why we don't pray big prayers.
Come on.
Because we're afraid that our God's going to break
Very
under
good.
the weight of that big prayer. What if you flipped it and you were like, he's the one that carries me. So if this prayer doesn't work, I'm good because I'm in the box. And so I wonder if there's a way to.
I wonder if there's a way I could end with one side of it being fragile. And if I flipped it, and if the flip was me getting in the box. That's an idea right there.
Yeah. You can't put God in a box, but God is a fortress, right? I love this kind of stuff.
Well, I think it's really good. I'm trying to land on that, because Paul says this God is not built in temples of human hands.
Yeah.
I think the next week I'm going to talk about God flex.
That made me think about
I want to
idols.
brag about God. You know what I mean? And on Pentecost Sunday, I want to kind of hit up the idea that God's not small, but he is near. And now he lives inside of us.
Yes.
So I'm not a box, but I am a vessel.
Or just keep the box up there all by
Well, now I'm thinking that way. I wonder if I could keep that, and that to me would be really authentic and really dope if it was layered like that. You keep coming back to this box if you could keep preaching it.
And what was the name of the series?
Your God is too small, which I don't know. Maybe that's not really a problem, right? That's
if you're going to put the box throughout the whole thing, God in a box.
God in a box.
Right, something like that, or don't box God, or what's the problem, right? Again, what's the problem? Your God
right now, my idea was that we got to break our boxes, but I'm like, am I taking a bat to this thing? I just look like, you want to talk about getting clipped. I'm definitely on that thing this week, breaking a box up with a bat,
You know what's great too that I think young preachers need to hear? And if it doesn't work, and then what?
This is the best part about church. There's always next Sunday.
There's always next Sunday. There's always next Sunday.
Which is my favorite line ever.
Yes, there's always next Sunday, which is why I get nervous preaching out places because I'm like, I only got one. I only got one Sunday. If this doesn't go well, it's just one Sunday. But it's and even then, there's another church and there's another. Was it Stephen Furtick who was like, I used to think it was heaven, hell.
Yeah.
And then it was like something
lunch. Go to lunch or they go to lunch.
It's like they get saved or they go to hell. Yeah. It's like they get saved or they go to lunch.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, that's a freedom.
It just takes the pressure off. I mean, if you're going to do this
week
in and week out, and I think it should be life-giving. Once again, this is what I love about a community because I always land back on it. And I really do believe this. Obviously, what we say is of the utmost importance.
100%. I hope nobody hears that. Like it doesn't matter.
Of course. And we're processing on some inside layer. But who is saying it matters a whole lot too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have you come to VU. You're going to preach great. And I want you to preach great. But there is not a bad sermon that you're going to preach at VU because I actually know you and the man behind it, and who you are is so much better than anything you will ever say in a 42-minute window.
Well, thank you.
And I think that hopefully is the purpose and the mission of my life in the community that we're forming. And that's why I let young guys get up there. It's like, I know this dude. This dude is out here. I know Antoine. He's out here serving. His life is living in a really beautiful way. Yeah, he needs to be theologically correct. And let's learn some communication skills. But if he falls, he'll get back up. And that's the beautiful thing about being in community is that who this person is the real deal, and it ministers to people.
Yeah, and who people are ministers.
Yeah.
We tell our staff all the time, who we are is more important than what we do.
Yep.
Or what we say. It's what I tell my wife. She is an amazing pastor. She's a pastor at heart. She loves pastoring people. but she is not a big fan of communicating.
Mm.
And
She's
it's
good at
okay. She's so good
She's
at it.
very good at it.
Did you hear that, babe?
She's
Rick's
very
younger
good at it.
But as a husband, you know, you gotta encourage, you gotta support, you gotta, as she walks that, what I tell her is that I go, it's not even, because she'll look at you, she'll look at me, she'll look, well, I can't say it like that. Not good with the prop. And I'm like, yeah, but people know who you are. And that's what they want to just, who you are is amazing. You're one of the most amazing, inspirational, encouraging women I've ever met in my entire life. The most. It's you and my mom, like the most. Just getting up there, it's why when I preach, I have whatever amount of views. And then the next person right after that, it'll be her. Because they know the person. They see her lay hands on me every Sunday. They see the way she's raising our kids. They see the way she presses in, praying for dream teamers and staff members. And they want to know who you are. So I think that's such a great a point about preaching.
I was just talking to our team the other day. We do like a once a month, like kind of staff meeting. And I try to bring something that's leadership, devotional, also something that's now, you know, we're trying to speak about. Yeah, once a month. It used to be every week. Now it's kind of at this point, there's 100 plus people in the room.
Yeah.
And so I did a talk this past week, actually on Tuesday, called The Circle of Control, which is kind of based on Stephen Covey's like work around like your circle of concern, your circle of influence, your circle of control. People that are reactive, spend all their time on the circle of concern. What are they saying about me on social media and my boss and the weather? And you can't control that stuff. But there are some things, the Christian life's all about surrender, but there are some things you can control. Your attitude, your habits, I'm saying your narrative.
Yeah.
And I was talking about attitude, and I was using Joseph as a backdrop. And my favorite little bar in the whole Joseph narrative, maybe that's a stretch to say, but the thing that sticks out to me a lot is when he's in prison and he walks up to those two dudes and he's like, "Why are you guys so sad today?" And it's like, bro, because we're all falsely accused and we're in prison. The better question is, why are you so happy? Like, why are you so good in the prison cell?
Yeah.
And there's something about the spirit that Joseph took on, that everywhere he went, whether there was that pit, Potiphar's house, you know, the prison to the palace, there was a different spirit. There was an attitude.
Yeah.
And an attitude is always marked. We always see it in the body language. We always see it in the atmosphere that we carry.
Yeah.
And I was talking to our team, because we all know this on the research. It's like 85% of communication is nonverbal.
So true.
And we just talk about like spirit and what people carry, and we're talking about preaching. I definitely believe in the
it's a
spoken
huge
word.
part.
We've got to articulate.
Yeah.
We've got to preach. And I do believe that we actually need the spoken word. People we've been talking about, you have to understand, but there also is something about your body language, your spirit of what you carry that people catch tremendously.
You had Philip Anthony Mitchell on recently that ministered to me tremendously. And you asked him a great question: what changed in your preaching? Because he was pastoring for 10 years. It's not like he developed a new skill. It's not like he got really good at you know, illustrations, or he changed he went from New Testament, he went from exegesis to, or whatever, or what changed? And he talked about his experience in Israel, and he just said depth. And I thought, man, that's a different type of feeling when you're talking about a book that you read. If I see a country in a book, and I know all the facts about this country, and I can tell you when Italy was founded, and I can tell you who the presidents were in order, and I can tell you what the national bird is. It's different talking to that person than the person who has been to Italy. They're going to talk to you in a different way. They might even say the same things, but the person who's been there, seen it, experienced it, is going to have a depth, is going to have a sense of authenticity that you can just feel when you're talking to somebody. And I think that definitely comes across in preaching. It's that personal time that you spend with the Lord, that personal time you're spending with the Word, making sure you see Christ in everything that you begin to come to share. Preaching. That's just what when our students ask me, what do we at our leadership college, how do I find a sermon to preach? My thing is always, what's God speaking to you right now?
Good.
What's God speaking to you right now? Because the thing that you're going to be able to preach the best is the thing that he's speaking to you right now, because it's going to be authentic. It's going to be real. It's going to be true to you, and we're all going to feel it.
And that's what makes it fresh, bro.
Yes.
That's what makes it effective.
That's what makes it fresh.
I can tell you all about New York, but let's just go.
Yeah, man.
Let's just go walk Soho.
Yeah.
Let me show you Brooklyn.
I don't know if you did this, but when you first started traveling, you'd have that travel message.
Oh, yeah, bro.
And I still have those travel messages.
Yeah.
But
I don't really got them right now.
No?
Not like I
you
did.
just bring what you bring on Sunday?
I mean, no, I feel like my flow now is more like there's 3 or 4 messages kind of in a season. What is that season? 4 to 6 months that will kind of, we were just at KB and I did something that I had done at a leadership thing.
What you got going big?
Yeah, like I kind of like.
Yeah. That's the second time I heard that one, and it was better the second time than the first time, man. It was so good.
But, so some of the things like that'll happen, but it kind of will last in a year plate at this point for me.
Yeah.
There's very few. But when I was like youth itinerant preaching churches, I had like 6 or 7 messages that.
I was gonna say that the moment I know when to retire it,
tell me,
is when I'm not living it. When that season is past, when the thing that God was speaking to me in that moment, it's no longer authentic to where I feel like I have to pull up an emotion or a feeling in a season where God's, it's not fresh, like you said.
That's helpful.
That's when I know I gotta, this is not.
How long you been married?
16 years. It'll be 17 in October. 2008 was when we got married. How we do the math? 2026.
You got to know this.
16?
That's 16.
16, yeah.
Good for you, bro.
Yeah.
And how'd you meet her?
I met her at a young adults event. She would call it a singles event, but that makes it sound like we were speed dating, and that's not what it was. Okay. It was a young adults event. I was putting it on. She was there. Actually, funny story, bro. The first time I ever saw her was at a youth convention. We were a lot younger, probably 5 years before that moment. That's stretching. 3 years before that moment. And I thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever met in my entire life, ever seen. But I was so nervous to talk to her. So I saw her, and for the entire youth convention, there was a moment where she got up and she left, and I got up and I left, and I followed her, and she went into the elevator, and I went into the elevator, and she got out of the elevator. This is a true story. I just wanted to be close to her.
He who finds a wife finds a good thing. There's a fine line between searching and stalking.
Yes. In hindsight, I realized this is a crime. This is a crime. Participating in
the God who redeems all things.
Yeah. She got out the elevator. I got out the elevator. She made a left. I made a left. She went into her room. I kept walking. I didn't take it that far. I kept walking. I went down to my friend Charlie, and I was like, bro, the girl with the yellow hair, did you see her? I was like, who is she? He kind of gave me the background on her. And I just felt like the Lord told me in that moment, not that she was going to be my wife, but that the day I met my wife, I would feel about her the way I felt about that woman. I would be that good. Anyway, so fast forward.
That's crazy.
Fast forward years later, I get a job working at a church in Tampa. And the pastor becomes a mentor of mine. I love him to this day. He's pastoring in Gainesville. He just awesome. Big part of my spiritual formation, the way I work altars, and he taught me all that. Love him to death. We're hanging out, and he goes, hey, you should come to my house. We're doing a family thing. I'm like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So we go to the house, and hey, Mom, Lisa is family's coming over. I'm like, cool. So we're sitting down eating, and through the door, walks in the girl with the yellow hair, whose name I didn't even know until that moment. And when she walks in, I'm like, that's the girl with the yellow hair, because she had her hair blonde at that moment. She still had it blonde, and I'm like, oh my God, this is my pastor's sister-in-law, his wife's sister. This is the girl that I had always remembered about, not necessarily who she was, but how it would feel when I saw her again. She walked in, dude, and I'm like palpitating in my chest, because I'm like, this is the girl that I remember from years ago. The memory had never left. And so that was how kind of we first got to officially have the conversation. Now, I didn't tell her the story about following.
When did you tell her this story?
Like after I proposed.
2 years after we were married. She's like, what?
After we proposed, I actually wrote her a song on our wedding day that
hold on, you're a songwriter?
No, you're a songwriter.
JJ.
But I wrote her a song on our wedding day
freaking Vasquez.
About that moment. But I made it a lot more romantic than it was creepy and soft.
And when you performed it?
I did. As she was walking, when she made it to the front, I performed it for her.
You're a real man, bro.
Yeah,
you sang at your wedding?
I did.
Dudes that do that are
We'll put the link in the description.
Please.
You can see the wedding footage.
And you're like crying when she's coming down?
I'm not a big crier, but I was crying.
You were?
I don't know how it was like at your wedding, but I just remember
I was 21, 22.
You're pretty emotional, so.
Bro, I was scared to death.
Were you?
You look at me at my wedding, I'm white as a goat. I was a baby. I was not prepared.
How old were you when you got married?
22.
That's how old I was.
Well, you're a better man of God than me.
22. I tell people when they ask me if I was scared, I go, I wasn't scared like it was the wrong person. I was scared the idea that I am now responsible.
All of the above.
For another person's life. Like I could just go.
All of the above.
Now I can't just go. Like I have to put food on the table. I have to make sure she's well taken care of. The weight of the responsibility of covering someone was what.
This is a very, very weird route, but like the idea of if I had to get married at 41, there's just no way. I had to be that young. Yes. I had to be that naive just because this is going to cost, it's going to be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But my goodness gracious, like I just know too much now. Like I just know what this thing takes. It takes every fiber. And I used to kind of think like getting married young was like, oh, that's a Christian thing. I'm like, that's the best thing, bro. Like if you marry the right one, obviously we know stories of people that were too young that got married. But my wife outside of Jesus is without a doubt, I know people say the greatest gift God has ever given me. I would not be here with you right now without Don Cherie, Duron Wilkerson's voice in my life.
Yeah. And
at 22, 21, I was shaking. I'd been with her for 4 or 5 years. I just think the idea of like forever. Like this is a big decision. And praise God, I did it. But no, I wasn't. I was just like, I like pale as a ghost. I had like a formal image tuxedo on, a 42 long. My dad used to always tell me the suit has to cover your butt, Rich. I'm like, Dad, this is like literally TD Jakes' jacket I'm wearing. My neck, my bow tie doesn't fit. I'm like, I look so goofy at my wedding. I had 19 groomsmen. Of course, as you do, they're all my best friends.
Now the people who are editing the video have to throw up a photo of you in this tux, bro.
Goofy. Yeah. And we got married before it was like cool. Like now everyone does like propose, like everyone comes with proposals and like how am I going to do
videos.
Dog, I was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Mine was a slideshow.
It was?
My wedding video was pretty much like a slideshow.
Oh yeah, no wedding. We have no wedding video. Now. Bro.
We went to Daytona. Where'd you get married at?
Got married in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's where Don Cherie's from.
That's right.
But I proposed her about a year before. I'm 21, 20. I'd bought some ring at a ring shop there in Shreveport, saved all my money, cost me $4,000 if you're wondering. Paid it off in 3 different installment payments as you do. That's a lot of money back then.
Heck yeah.
4 G's, bro.
That's how much our ring cost.
I had this ring in my pocket like for ages. Finally, I'm like, here's the night. We're in Shreveport. But like, I don't have a plan. Like this is a different generation, bro.
Yeah.
I'm 19 years in August. Like these kids today, it's like, I have my videographer. I've invited both sets of the family. We're going to come out. I'm coming in from a hot air balloon.
Yep.
No, bro. I'm like, we're going to dinner. I have like a button down Ralph Lauren. Like I look good like for that vibe. We go to dinner and all I knew about proposals was like from the movies. And so we're at some weird restaurant. There's like a nice restaurant in Shreveport. Can't find very many.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm nervous, bro. Like I'm drinking so much water. I'm going to the bathroom, like hitting water in my face. I'm freaking out.
Oh my God.
I come back to the table. I'm like, I can't propose in here. Like it's going to shut the whole restaurant down.
Yeah.
So we get the bill. We start walking the car. I'm like, I'm going to propose right here in the street. Like this is what you do. I get in the car. I got nervous. I couldn't do it. We get in the car. Now we're driving home. I have to propose still.
This has to happen.
We passed out. She's like, why you passed out? I'm like, oh, I just want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Somehow, by the grace of God, we drive about a mile past her house and they live on a lake.
Yeah.
And there was this old gazebo that I'd gone to one time.
And you didn't plan that?
No, I just drove by the gazebo, pulled into the parking lot. I'm like, let's walk out to the gazebo.
Come on.
We got to the gazebo. Within 30 seconds of hitting the gazebo, I dropped to my knee. I propose. She says yes. We kiss.
Come on.
We hang there for 2 minutes. We're like, should we go see your parents?
Oh my
gosh. We just drove home and just sat with her parents that night. There was no friends there. I called some people. Like
how nervous you become. I did mine on Christmas Eve. I did the whole thing of like a box and a box and a box and a box.
This is my sermon illustration. Tell me what you did because I want to use this for this weekend.
so I got
a box and a box.
Yeah, I did. I did like one box and a box and a box. And then so I had to make it feel heavy. So the first box she opened had dumbbells in it, which in hindsight was the worst thing to open on, hey babe, love you, go work out.
Oh, yeah.
Go to the gym. You need to work on those triceps.
If you don't like my body, just tell me. Oh, I do love your body and the body of Christ.
Yeah.
I love the church.
That was
and
the first thing she opened up and I'm like, and I feel like she looked at me in the way like, you're gonna need to explain these dumbbells. And I'm like, yeah, there's another box inside that I'm trying to throw you off. And she opened the other box, can't remember what was in it. And then on the bottom box was the ring box. And she pulled it out where all her family's there. My family's not there. The grandma doesn't know that I'm proposing. And so like in the middle of like me getting on my knee, she like yells something about food in the back. It's just a hot mess. And then like you, all I knew was the movies. So I get on one knee and here's what I thought would happen. I'm like, words are my thing.
Yeah. I had nothing planned.
Yeah. No. I'm like, words are my thing.
Yeah.
I do words. When I get on my knee, I'm going to have the words. And I swear to you, my proposal was something like, I love you. this was supposed to be easier in my mind. Oh, I know you love me too. Will you marry me? And then she waited just a little too long. And then she finally said yes, but I was like, man, yeah, I didn't plan that out the right way. Then you got people who are flying to Central Park and
this
booking
stuff
out
now.
the ice skating rink.
This
I'm
stuff
like, bro.
now.
And then what they don't know is,
And now they need social media. They have to have a social media reel.
here's what they all need to hear for anybody who's planning that out. Where do you go from there?
Yeah, talk about it.
If that's the proposal,
That's what I'm saying. 22.
what's going to be the first date of your wedding? You're still going to go down from there, bro. It's not.
Dog, my honeymoon was a Royal Caribbean 7-night cruise.
That's what you want to be.
Holler
though.
at your
That's
boy.
where you want to be.
Holler at your boy.
That's
We
where
did
you
that
wanna
for
be.
the next 5 years, by the way.
Let's go.
Royal Caribbean, we thank you.
That's where you want to go.
Yeah, but it's only up,
Yeah.
from Royal Caribbean, Caribbean cruise,
Smart.
Labadee, Haiti, and,
That's where you,
Cozumel, Mexico. I don't
you
know
went
where
to
it goes.
Haiti?
Well, they have a little island or something in the Royal Caribbean. It's like, it's only up from the
Bro, you
all-you-can-eat
got the
pizza bar.
budget
Yeah.
cruise. You stopped in Haiti? Wow. Yeah, no, yeah, thank God.
That's where God
I'm
gave me a
grateful
heart for the
our
nations.
trajectory.
So stupid.
You guys like eating buffet. Kids
No,
are dying
but it's
outside.
very funny. It's like, where do you go from
there,
this whole
dude.
thing,
That was your
man?
proposal.
These gender reveal parties, bro. This stuff is getting big,
getting wild,
man.
man.
These weddings, bro. These videos you got to make. This
Yeah.
stuff.
Then there's
man.
the other extreme too, like if you have to do the city hall thing, do it. We have a bunch of people at church
Yeah.
do it. But sometimes there'll be someone at our church who'll be like, hey, I want to go to the city hall. And I'm like, dude, come to the office.
Yep.
We'll set it up.
Yep.
We'll get our photographer. They'll record it. We'll send you the stuff. I've married a bunch of people in my office.
I love that.
And we've set up flowers. We set up a little thing. I do it. I'm like, if you can, make it special.
When you're doing a wedding like that and you're doing it in your office, are you just reading a script or you're trying to be very like? And how do you do weddings?
Yeah. So I have a script that I use for weddings. And then there's always a portion in the script that is not template that I try and pull something out personal from the people. So if I don't know them that well.
What's your framework for that? I feel like you'll have a framework of some sort.
For the wedding?
Like you're kind of like 8-minute, 10-minute, like I just did a wedding this past week. I'm going to do another one next week. Now these days, there's a lot of like people that are getting married in our church that are close to me. And so I love doing it.
Because you have 1,000 friends.
But they've all go to the same weddings, the same folks. I'm like, hey, it's me again. I can't use my script. So it's like, now these guys got me writing sermons for them,
No, why can't you use it again? It's a wedding. The only thing, so I use the same basic template. And then in the middle, I write something personal to each of them. Because I know their story. If they're friends of mine, which is probably the only weddings we're doing now are weddings of people who are close to us. And so if it's personal and I know them, then I try and do a paragraph personal to them, a paragraph closer to them. Like I just got to do.
And you just read that?
Yeah, I just read it off the iPad.
Yeah.
Do you not read it off the iPad?
No.
You just go off the, you're amazing, bro.
But I've had some bad weddings.
Yeah. No, I read it out.
You do a salvation call at a wedding?
I don't. Do you do salvation call at a wedding? I do them at the funeral.
Not always, but often.
I just did a salvation call at the funeral, but
I was just doing a wedding this past week for my really good friend.
bro?
My really good friend, and he's.
Did he want it?
Yeah. But
okay, if they want me for it, I'll say I'll do it.
But this dude's like the man. He's my good friend.
Yeah.
He's like, he's the best, bro. He's a award-winning hairdresser. He's just cool. He's
So
like,
cool.
He's from Australia, lived in London, lived in New York. One of my dearest friends. But like, I think the best people are these people that are like super deep and completely spiritual, believe all the crazy stuff of the Bible, but then they're also just like really normal. You can just hang with them. And I'm always looking for that. There's kind of both and like, bro, I'm radical.
Yeah.
I believe all the stuff in that book.
Yeah.
But I'm also a good time.
I
You know
love
what I mean?
that.
Let's go hang and I can
love
be
that.
very, very normal. And that actually is a rare thing to find. He fits in that category. But he is a, moved by the spirit kind of guy.
Yeah.
But he's also this detailed, like meticulous freak. He's a hairdresser. Everything's perfect. His suit is just.
Those worlds don't have to be opposite. You could put them together. Yeah.
He does it.
Yeah.
So he had 3 different worship songs in his wedding. And we're singing like Trust in God. And my man's like crying. He's crying. But he's also still like coordinating the wedding. It's a program. Like, I don't know this. You got a lot of elements, bro. He's like, I trust in God. It's
Oh
like,
my God.
we got to do 1 Corinthians 13. We're like in some old hymn. He's like, do the salvation call. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And now on behalf of, so I'm like, he's like prompting me as we were doing it. It made me laugh so
I
hard.
love it.
But
I've done it before. The most spiritual wedding I've ever done, John Wilds, because he was just on this podcast.
yeah,
He did worship for the wedding.
Mm.
So that tells you everything that you need to know about what kind of wedding this was. We had communion. He led us in worship. There was an altar call. There was.
you are holy.
So,
The train of his robe. We're in Isaiah at the wedding,
Yeah. powerful,
woe is from I am unclean. Bro, Benny Hinn came to my wedding.
Really?
Prayed over my wife and I at my wedding.
That's powerful.
And I went out, fell under the Spirit, slain in the Spirit at my wedding. I'm kidding about that part, but he
I was
did
like,
pray
there's
for me.
no way. I was like, there's no way. There's no way.
Pray for me at my wedding.
Yeah.
Imagine if I would have fallen out. I was like, whoa. Someone has to catch me and bring me back. I'm like, I'm good. I can't kiss her. I can't do that. I can't kiss her.
Oh my
So John
God.
Wilds is singing Prophet Isaiah.
Yeah.
And it's just the power of God was there.
Bro, powerful. Yeah.
That man opens his mouth. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Wedding, funeral.
Yes.
Bring that guy to a bar mitzvah. Everyone's getting
ABC
saved.
song. It'll be anointed, bro.
Guy's powerful.
Yeah, for real.
Tell me what's happening at your church right now, because you guys have been going 9 years.
Yeah.
I think it's taken Orlando, and I got so many friends that are going to it. People that leave Miami, I'm like, go to Journey.
Man. And thank you for that. I meet people in the lobby all the time who are like, Rich sent us here.
For real.
Yeah.
Praise God.
1,000%.
I tell people.
Rich sent us here, or we heard you preach at VU, or we're here on vacation, or whatever. And so thank you for that. I love, by the way, the VU run, a road to VU, because of the heart behind bringing all these churches together. I do mean that when I say I feel like you have an apostolic calling in your life. You've probably heard that before. But there are not many people that a lot of pastors will partner with. They have to have trust. They have to have. So I think it's so cool how you're bringing together churches and just making space for people to come and do community together. We feel like that. We feel like, I don't know how many pastors can say this, but we feel like we're on the same team.
Yeah. Amen.
I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on the same team.
Yep. We are.
And we're doing something big in the kingdom in our state. But no, our church is going great. You know, we're at that place. We're trying right now to purchase the building that we're in, that we've been in for the last 3 or 4 years, $16.5 million. We were able to raise up a down payment for it. Now we're just waiting for the owner to kind of finalize some contracts. If we finally get that,
come on, it's gonna
that'll
happen.
be amazing. It sits about 1,100 people right now. We do 4 services. 2 of them are in additional seating.
Jeez.
And then we're going to be expanding the right side of it to add another 600 seats. And so it's exciting. We got 2 campuses, physical, and we're working on a 3rd. But you know, a lot of the constraints, I think I was watching your podcast. I don't know if we're at the end or not, but I know how you always ask, how are you maturing?
Yeah.
I don't want to jump the gun.
No, you're good.
But I feel like
Talking.
what our church is teaching me right now is, when you first started church, I feel like, good or bad, mostly bad, there's some ambition. Some of that ambition is of the Lord.
Yeah.
And then there's probably some human ambition in there that you got to kind of weed out. But I feel like I'm in a season right now where, if you'd ask me how I'm growing, what God's teaching me through our church, which I love, it's how to die. How to die to my plans, how to die to my expectations, what I thought. I really do feel like it's Jesus's church. And I'm just another guy on the team trying to figure out where Jesus is taking his church. But I love it. I love the mission statement of our church, to make Jesus accessible to anyone. I love that we get Muslims who come to our church and end up giving their lives to Christ. We have people from the LGBT community that end up coming to our church. And my wife, my aunt was in a lesbian lifestyle for 40 years. Gave her life to Jesus, got baptized 2 years ago, and now she serves on our safety team. My uncle, same thing with my uncle. And sometimes people will, and we preach the truth, you know, but I love the feedback of, it's what I said earlier. Hey, we don't agree, but we get it. The people that leave our church because we preach whatever, the truth. Hey, I don't agree, but thank you. I've never heard it in a way that made me feel so respected and loved before. I'm like, that's the best thing that I can hear. I'm not preaching the truth, you know, but that accessibility, atheists, agnostics, I think like that's our people. Like, we want to be the church where you can invite your friend to. And so we're trying to still live in that while figuring out all these brand new systems and stuff that we have to create. I know Craig Rochelle is always like, fight for simplicity. Complexity is the enemy. So we're kind of in that kind of season, trying to figure out, okay, now that it's growing and there's more and more campuses, and how do you keep making it simple and easy? And how do we not stop making it about the 4 things that we do and growing past that? But love our church. I think we got the best staff on the planet. We had team night this past Tuesday. We had all of our dream team come in, and we did the fire tunnel, bro.
I've done it.
Fire tunneled it.
I do it at staff retreat every year.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that, because I was at the last one. I didn't know.
You were at the night. We do it in that afternoon before usually. And
So we
just-
fire
Dawn Tree and I
tunneled
were
it.
up there. My parents usually there. And we just anoint everybody.
Fire tunneled it. We had 45 minutes of dream teamers walking through the tunnel,
So
because there was
smart.
so many, hundreds of dream teamers came through.
So
in
smart.
tears, staff in tears. And I pulled our staff over at the side and I was like, guys, I love you so much. You just prayed 45 minutes straight in tears and you prayed for the last person like you did the first person. I do think the secret of a church that sees people is a staff that sees the church. And so I love that our staff is that way. At the same time, they're all young. Like I know a lot of your staff at VU is. And so they're figuring stuff out. We're figuring stuff out. So having a grace to kind of go through that season. I'm at the season now and I'm like, I'd love to hire somebody with white hair, bro. I need to balance this thing out because we need some wisdom on this team. We need some more experience and stuff. But I love their hunger and their heart. And so we're all growing, all trying to figure it out. But it's a beautiful, beautiful.
What are your
season.
service times on Sunday?
So we do 8:30, 10, 11:30 and 1 o'clock. We do 15 to 20 minute turnarounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, bro.
And how long is the service, the program usually?
70, 75.
You're amazing.
It's wild.
What's the least attended?
Least attended would be the 1 p.m.
And what would be a low day in there?
Low day?
Because that room seats, you just said 1,100.
Yeah, 1,100.
And if there's 300 people in there, is that crazy?
Oh, there wouldn't be 300 people in there. Yeah, no, there'd probably be 800, 700.
What is there any thresholds for you? Like, bro, like it's got to be above this number or that number, or you don't feel it that way? In terms of like,
I think Craig Rochelle taught me that when he was like, yeah, we open up a service with like 80% capacity, and the only people who like fold rooms are preachers. He would always say that.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
so I'm like, that's true. If I show up to a movie theater and I've got a bunch of seats, this is my movie theater.
I'm happy about
I
it.
picked the movie theater that not a lot of people are going to. And so I think that the people I don't need a full room to preach. But I feel like we need to go to 5, but I won't do it, right? Because that's crazy. And I don't.
But crazy because more so about your capacity, or
my
more so
capacity.
because.
And this team's capacity.
What about using video? You don't believe in it?
I would love to, I believe in it. I don't know.
You're just not sure if it works.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if it works. You mean, I would love to pick your brain on that because I know that you.
I just think
live
it's
here,
inevitable.
video
I just think it's
here,
inevitable.
live there.
I think when something's growing, and I was having a conversation with the guys last night because there was some combo. We got a bunch of crazy service times at the moment, but like there was a time when we had at our South Miami location, I think it was like running 10, 12, 5, and 7. And they were all talking last night at dinner like, man, that 7 p.m. was the best. It's a 6 p.m. now, it's pumping. But I said, the reason why that 7 p.m. was so good was because it was a 5 p.m. before. But the 5 p.m.s have never been full rooms, and they're kind of like not the best feeling services, but they always create a funnel into that 7 p.m. And I think the biggest thing about creating a life-giving church, a life-giving community, is that whenever we take on the model of, let me just make it so easy for you to come and get, it actually doesn't produce any kind of power or strength. It's the contribution that creates the actual culture. It's like the more invested I am, the more interested I am. So it's like, it's kind of like we had to cross that bridge of the 5 p.m. being kind of okay. But with that, when you pair it up now the 7 p.m. is the most dynamic. I think our 6 p.m.s are cool, but they still sometimes have a consumer mindset.
What's the one at City? What's it one?
It's a 6 p.m., but they run a 6 p.m. at South Miami and City. It's a great service. Okay. But what I fight with it always is like, it's a little bit like, let me come and see what I'm going to get tonight.
Yes.
And I don't think that's a church.
How do we fight the consumer mentality in church? It kills me.
I think we got to stretch. We got to push. We got to create moments that people are having to match equally, some version of a sacrifice. That's the tension of it all. Like, what's too much? I don't think that you should have to preach a 5th time. I think that you should build up a team. It's like, yo, do we want to continue to see what God's doing? People are showing up. There's overflows. At what point do we just go, hey, we're good? And sometimes we are that way. Jesus, lots of times there's times where Jesus is like, hey, Jesus, they're all waiting for you. He's like, I'm not going. So I don't think we should have to just match demand.
Yes.
We have to really ask God about what we're supposed to bring. But I just think video, I would teach that we're using video constantly because we're using a singular message and a singular voice to create unity across the churches. And I can't be in all those different places, nor can the other teachers and preachers. And so what are we about? Oh, we hate celebrity Christianity. All right, then let's not come to the only place where the guy's at. Let's come and participate and celebrate, and let's actually contribute. Let's go. We're building a community. And this guy is actually right now just serving a role, which is delivering the word. And there's pastors at each location and every service. There's people there that will take you lunch, that will pray with you afterwards. I'm doing that too, but I can't do that for everyone.
Right.
So that's kind of where I just land back on that thing of going, I think a life-giving place is always a place that's taking a stretch.
Yeah.
It's always being challenged. I think it's going to be the story and the narrative of your journey going forward always.
I love that. I
figuring it out, you know?
I love that. I think I definitely have to develop the courage. I think when you see something working, you're like, I don't want to mess
Totally.
with what's working.
And I'm caught
But
that a
then
little
you
bit
hit-
too.
then you
'Cause I'm
hit
still
the-
traveling to places a little bit.
Yeah, then you hit the limit. You hit your lid. You hit your capacity.
What would you say sitting here right now today? And I don't know if this word will hit you the right way. If you don't like the word, you can figure out another word. But like, what is your greatest frustration? Or maybe your greatest pain point? Or like, man, this thing's on the top of my mind
Yeah.
constantly. And that could be anywhere in your life. Like,
Ooh, anywhere in my life.
I mean, wherever you want to lean into is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
We could talk about the church, but
Yeah.
it's like,
And the church would be my capacity. In the building's capacity.
Yep.
We don't have any put people. I mean, Easter we had to turn people away for fire code type stuff.
Yep.
So in the church would be that. Can I tell a funny Easter story?
yeah, of course.
And then I'll get back to the seriousness of it.
That's great.
You like to laugh. So Easter was wild.
Yeah.
Bananas.
I feel like everyone had epic Easters this year.
Bananas,
Like,
bro. We had crossed over 12 it was wild. So we have a building. But Easter, do you remember the date that Easter fell on this year?
420.
All
Ain't no
right.
high like the most high.
Wait. So our parking's overflowing. We have to park in the commercial complex to the right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Except that our neighbors run a cannabis dispensary.
Yep.
So we forgot that it was 420. So they start to call the cops to tow cars away from because it's
This their best.
It's their Easter.
their day.
It's their Easter. It's their Easter.
Why are you guys taking our day?
It's their Easter.
This is our one day. We give you the literal date.
So I got up on the
that
service
is funny.
time and I was like, hey, so if anyone parked by the weed store, we just need you to get your car right now and move it because they're towing and we just need you to move. I was like, but we both had Easter on the same day. So I thought that was funny.
That's very funny, actually.
Yeah.
It's
Anyway.
like, this is our day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So in our church, it's definitely the building. There was a lot of frustrations there, but we're doing our best. And I think a part of it is just understanding not just the capacity, my capacity as a leader, why we can't do a fifth, but also our capacity of our church. Like, I don't have to, why do I, and I get it, like people are going to hell and we got to keep reaching, but there are other churches in Orlando, dude, they don't all have to come to mine. And so like, if I can't reach more people because of the lids that God has placed on us at this moment, then I've got to be okay with accepting those limitations. And that has been something that I've been growing in as well. Just accepting the limitations of my giftings, accepting the limitations of our building, accepting the limitations of our staff, and just of our budget, and just enjoying it. Because also when your church grows fast, you have the church size of A, but you have the church staff of B.
Yeah, you got it.
And so we've got over 6,000, but we've got 26 staff members. How many guys you guys running out? Is that
60.
lean?
No, we
60.
way bigger.
60.
And on a staff side. We're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
much bigger as a church, but I'm saying.
And so 26, 29 full-time staff members. And so a part of that is us being a predominantly minority church. We don't put it all on that, but that's the reality of the income dynamics. But also a part of that is just being a young church.
Yeah.
And so, we instead of complaining about it, we're going to embrace it, understand who we are. We're going to make the most of it. That's why I said we have an amazing staff. We have 29 people leading all those people.
That's amazing. That's something
our-
to be proud of.
Yeah, we love it. We talk about it often, and we build great teams. On a personal thing, I think, just selfishness, that. We're talking about being married. The hardest part of being married, man, is got to get rid of the selfishness. Marriage is brutal on selfishness. So, but I'm seeing it in a new light, being a parent, being a husband. There's times where I want the me time and that's all good, all healthy. But being a dad is just as important. It's more important than being a pastor or a minister or a leader. And so just making sure that I have the right attitude. I'm thinking of them first. Like I said, I feel like I'm dying, but in a great way.
Yeah.
In a great way. So
Our word, our phrase this year for VuCon is dying to be different.
that's right.
Dying to be different.
I thought it was dare to be different. It's dying to be different.
Dying to be different.
I
Another
love
song
that.
about the Holy Spirit, dying to be different. I'm dying to, obviously the entendre is there as well, in terms of
love it.
both different ways of looking at it.
That's my anthem this year,
It's
man.
beautiful.
That's my
When
anthem
we were
this
starting
year.
the church, I felt like the Lord spoke to me that you will never lack the resources for the vision that I'm going to give you. And the Lord has fulfilled on that promise over and over again. This is probably the first time where I'm like, yo, there are clear vision projects right now that we don't have the resources for it. But I feel like what I reminded myself is what I would remind you of, is that God called us.
Yeah.
This is God's story.
Yeah.
God doesn't need us.
Yes. That's such a great.
He's inviting us in to play a part. And I love looking at Jesus, right? Because Jesus wasn't trying to do everything.
Yeah.
He was trying to do the something that he was called to do.
Exactly.
And Lord, on Mature Me right now, look, let us hear your voice.
Yeah.
Let us fall into the rhythms of your grace, your cadence, follow you.
Yeah.
And I was saying it to you earlier, but I just think that there's no telling all the different ways God's going to use you. He's already using you in such massive ways, but I just think over the next couple of years too, you're just going to see it clearer and clearer. You have a unique anointing and a grace on your life. I'm here for it. I'm a massive celebrator of it. I'm a learner of it, but I'm just grateful for you and Liz and your boys and your church. And you give me a lot of hope in the sense of I'm not in this thing alone, and we are on the same team.
Yeah.
And I think
Same.
those that are listening that have stuck around this long, it's like, I think the challenge of being a pastor sometimes is just the lie that we're totally alone.
Yeah.
It can feel that way.
Yeah.
And I just find a whole lot of soul care
Yeah.
and soul refreshment, even just listening to you and talking to you.
Thanks, man.
And I think we should be leaning on each other. I think we should be playing into each other's strengths
Yeah.
and covering each other's weaknesses. And so I'm just excited to see
Thank you, man.
what God's going to do.
Thank you for being available. Thank you for sharing wisdom when I text and insight. And it means so much to me to have you in our corner. And you said something there that really ministered to me. And there's a great reminder. God doesn't need us.
Yep.
What a great reminder. One last story. The first time our church ever crossed 1,000, it was at Easter. It was a big Sunday for us because we know 1,000. That's like a threshold mark, right? And we did 2 services. And the first service, I felt like I crushed it. Not to be prideful, but I felt like that was a good sermon.
Yeah.
Second, but you know what? That was not the one to crush because that was the one that the volunteers showed up to. Second service, where all the guests show up to, and I bombed that one. I did that one so bad.
You never bombed.
Oh, it was horrible. It was terrible. So then I walk off stage. My wife's waiting for me backstage, and she goes, and I go, babe, I think I just blew up the church. I think I broke it. I think we're done.
Fragile God inside.
Yes. I think we're done. And she put her hand on my shoulders and encouraged me and corrected me like only a spouse can.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some things DC says that you're like, I don't know if I just got exhorted or encouraged. I don't know if I got rebuked or loved on. I can't tell.
Yeah.
She put her hand on my shoulder and she said, oh, baby, you're important, but not that important.
Great.
She said, if you think the plans that God has for Central Florida rest on your ability to put together words for 35 minutes, oh, baby, you're important, but not that important. So that became one of our staff sounds. You're important, but not that important. You know, we can't do this without you, but also God can do this without you. And so, and that's not a knock. That's a liberty.
Yeah.
That's a freedom. That's a weight off my shoulders.
Huge.
You know, even like coming to here to do the podcast, when I saw all the people that you bring on normally, I'm like, I am not a CrossFit world champion. I am not Philip Anthony Mitchell, but I don't have to be any of that. Because I'm not that important. And that's what makes it special, that you don't have to be important, that God can use you and God can move through you. All you have to do is say yes, be present, be faithful, and God will do what he has to do. And it's such a freeing, wonderful reminder you reminded me of, and my wife has reminded me of, and we have to constantly remind ourselves of when we feel that weight and our pressure. We're important.
Absolutely.
But not that important.
Bro, you're preaching today, man.
Not that important.
We're so grateful you take some time to come out here to
Thanks,
the
man.
Mature Me podcast. I could talk to you for 2 more hours easily. Unfortunately, I have to go run 6 miles.
Let's go.
With this dad bod.
Pull up to
I'm
VUCON,
12 pounds
bro.
overweight, but you see me in 30 days, bro.
Pull up to VUCON. Let's switch it up halfway through. Come on, we'll just...
I love you. If you
Love
guys are in the Orlando area,
Thank
come
you.
and check out Journey Church. Also, if you're listening right now, help this man buy this building, bro. We ain't never raised money on Mature Me before, but I think right now we should just start doing it. I got a real firm revelation that whenever I need something in my life, I just do it for somebody else.
You're crazy.
You intervene for someone else, watch God start intervening for you. But
Crazy.
JJ, we love you.
Love you.
And check them out. Follow them on social. And go ahead, if you're still with us an hour and 50 minutes into this, leave us a comment, a like, ask any kind of questions. We want to try to answer those right here in the Mature Me podcast. But check us out next Tuesday because there's more conversations coming. We love y'all. God bless.